So before we proceed to the next part of our program, let me just recognize also the group from the cashier and accounting. And hello po sa inyo. Good morning.
Hello, Sir
From
George.
the EMT group, headed by Sir Juanito Corpus. Ayan po.
Hello!
The College of Education, hello. Sir Cedric Ochoco. Ayan. Good morning sa inyo. Now, for the next part of our program, let us all recite the new PVMG, the quality objectives or the quality objectives of the Don Mariano Marcos Memorial State University. Let us start with the new PVMGs, the quality objectives of the Don Mariano Marcos State Memorial State University. You can follow. Let us start with the new PVMGs. Philosophy, quality objectives of the Don Mariano Marcos Total Human State Memorial State University. You can follow. Let us start with the new PVMGs. Philosophy, quality objectives vision of the Don Mariano Marcos Total Human Memorial State University. You can follow. Let us start with the new PVMGs. Philosophy, quality objectives vision of the Don Mariano Marcos Total Human Memorial State University. Let us start with the research and philosophy, quality objective vision, total human memorial state university. To lead, let us start with the research and philosophy, quality objective vision, total human memorial state university. To lead, let us start with the research and philosophy, quality objective vision, total human memorial state. To become a globally competitive university. To attain its vision, the university will be globally competitive university. Deliver quality service to attain in instruction, research, and extension. Two, in compliance with the applicable statutory and regulatory requirements. Research and extension. Develop employee competencies, creativity, and empowerment, and accountability. Develop innovative programs, strong management engagement, empowerment and commitment, and accountability, and develop achieve high level of clientele satisfaction. Let us also recite the quality objectives of DIMSU. The university aims to increase the percentage of board passers to 38% and employment rate of graduates to 40% at the end of the year. Increase the percentage of research outputs and publications to 27%. Increase the percentage of approved research proposals to 10%. Increase the percentage of extension services to 95%. Comply with applicable statutory and regulatory requirements to 100%. Implement the faculty and staff development plan. Improve utilization of machines and equipment. Improve budget utilization rate to 95% and achieve at least 80% client satisfaction. So, sabi ni President, i-memorize daw po natin itong lahat. Nakuha po ba natin? Kailangan i-memorize natin yung lahat pagdating ng mga ISO accreditors. So let us now hear the training overview and opening remarks to be given by the University's Safety and Health Officer, Mr. Jigger A. Pre. Let's give him a round of applause, virtual applause. Pak, pak. Yeah. Take it away, sir.
Thank you, Sir Jomar. Naliwanag ba yung aking audio?
Loud and clear, sir.
Yan. So, good morning, fellow government workers. Ang bag nabigat tayo amin. This is the second leg of our first occupational safety and health training in the university. So let me start with our legal basis for the conduct of this webinar. Very recently, na-approve po yung Joint Memorandum Circular number 1 series of 2020 mandating or providing for the occupational safety and health standards for the public sector. Okay. So matagal na panahon na mayroong Republic Act 11058, yung Occupational Safety and Health Law ng Pilipinas. Pero hindi po covered ang public sector when it comes to occupational safety and health as far as the Republic Act 11058 is concerned. So this is a very welcome legal framework na pwedeng gamitin ng government to promote and practice occupational safety and health in the public sector. So in response, the university created the University Safety and Health Committee noong October 21. So this is chaired by Dr. Estrella N. Perez, the Vice President for Administration. The members are Attorney Christine Gay Balanag, our Director for Administrative Services, Dr. Consuelo W. Alcantara, our Director for Medical Services, the Faculty President, the NTA President, the DRM Coordinator, and yours truly, the Secretary, being the University Safety and Health Officer. So mandate po ng Joint Memorandum Order na magkaroon ng University Safety and Health Committee as well as ng University Safety and Health Officer. That's why on the occupational safety and health training. So this is part of our compliance with the memorandum. Okay? Ano ba yung reasons kung bakit kinakailangan ng occupational safety and health awareness? These are some of the reasons cited by the memorandum. There are new types and patterns of hazards and risks in the workplace. So, although yung ating industry or yung ating establishment is a low-risk industry, meron pa ring risk. There are high cases of occupational injuries and diseases as cited by DOLE. Okay. There's also a lack of awareness among rights holders on the provision of just and human terms and conditions of work. That's why there is a need to enhance and to further improve the existing working conditions in all government agencies. And lastly, it is provided in Section 3, Article 13 of the 1987 Constitution that occupational safety and health is a right. Hence, it is important that all sectors, both public and private, should endeavor for better working conditions in their respective places. Okay, so ito po yung ating objectives for the webinar. To increase awareness of university employees from the dangers of injury, sickness, or death in the workplace through the adoption of safe and healthy working conditions. To disseminate government policies and guidelines on occupational safety and health. And lastly, to ensure a safe and healthful workplace for all university employees. Okay. So, kahapon po, natapos po yung webinar for the Central Administration, the NLUC, the SRDI, and the NARTD. So, ang attendance po nila ay sumabot ng 530. So, siguro mas marami ang attendance natin ngayon dito sa Mid-La Union Campus. Then, bukas naman po, dito sa South La Union Campus. Okay. So, may I inform everybody na since natapos po yung training sa North La Union Campus kahapon, yung ipapakita ngayon, ipe-present ngayon is a recorded webinar. And ganun din po bukas, yun po yung ipe-present sa South La Union Campus. But after noong matapos yung mga modules, the Secretariat will be sponsoring the open forum. So yung training is divided into 6 modules. First is Introduction to Occupational Safety and Health, General Concepts of Occupational Safety and Health, Number 3, recognizing safety hazards and appropriate control measures. 4, application of hazards identification, risk assessment and control. 5, workplace emergency preparedness. And 6, occupational safety health guidelines for the public sector. Now, I would like to remind you to register for your attendance para po doon sa inyong certificate of participation. And doon po sa later part, we hope that you will accomplish the training evaluation. So I will now turn over to
Okay, sir. Thank you for that training background for this webinar and also the welcome remarks. And for the next part of our webinar, let me just show my screen. By the way, I'll just give you an update to the attendance. We already received 347 responses. So thank you very much for signifying your attendance. We have 87% or 302 from the Mid La Union campus, 41 from the OUS, and the remaining from the Central Administration and the North La Union campus. So marami-rami na po tayo, 347. So to introduce the first speaker, I'll just give a short introduction. Our resource person for Module 1 and 2 is our University Security Officer. He is a Safety Officer 2 and 3 certified officer, and he is also a certified security professional with 40-hour training in heavy equipment or heavy equipment safety. Let us all welcome Sir Valeriano Napoleon Cayabyab.
All right. This has been mentioned, okay? But then first, I have to welcome you once again in this training, OSH training for the first time in our university. Okay. This has been mentioned twice already, okay? The mandatory 8-hour OSH seminar for workers is stipulated in the Department Order 198, Series of 2018, Section 16. That is safety and health training. And in Clause B of that section, it says that all workers shall undergo mandatory workers seminar prescribed by DOLE, and that has to be participated by workers and employers. And such training to be conducted by the safety officer of the establishment or any certified OSH practitioner or consultant. Basically, Department of Labor and Employment's Order 198 of 2018 provides for the implementing rules and regulations of Republic Act 11058. In Section 2, under coverage, it says that these rules do not apply to public sectors such as national government agencies, government-owned and controlled corporations, state universities and colleges, and local government units, which shall be governed by the appropriate rules and regulations that are issued by the Civil Service Commission and other government agencies. Okay, and now it is for that reason that the Civil Service Commission the Department of Health and the Department of Labor and Employment have come up with a joint memorandum circular number 1, okay? That is a series of 2020. And this memorandum circular mandates the implementation of occupational safety and health standards for the public sector. Under Joint Memorandum Circular number 1, Section 2, Objectives, it says here that in paragraph 2, this shall also guide the government agencies in the development, implementation, monitoring, and evaluation of occupational safety and health of government employees. Okay. In Section 3, Clause C of Department Order 198 of 2018, it says that OSH Worker Seminar refers to the mandatory 8-hour module-based training conducted by the safety officer of the workplace as prescribed by the OSH standards. And in Clause B of Section 16 of RA 11058, it says that all workers shall undergo the mandatory workers OSH seminar prescribed by DOLE, which shall be jointly participated by workers and employers. So this is more than enough justification for us to conduct, or as to why we have to conduct this OSH training. So for module 1, introduction with OSH or occupational safety. After this presentation, participants will be able to express appreciation on OSH and recognize the importance of various data and legislation related to occupational safety and health. So originally, the goal of this law is that is for safety and guarantee safer working conditions for all workers, regardless of their job or industry. In the Philippines, occupational safety and health was formulated in 1978. That was the first time. That is in compliance with the constitutional mandate, safeguard. Excuse me. Okay. To safeguard the worker's social and economic well-being, as well as his physical safety and health. So there have been many revisions when it comes to, or with regard to occupational safety and health in the Philippines. And then revisions to the OSH standards were approved in 1989. That is, of course, with the joint effort of the Bureau of Working Conditions, the International Labor Organization, Manila office, and the tripartite sectors. Now, I just want to give you an overview on the importance of OSH, the main reasons, the primary reasons why we have to implement occupational safety and health in our university or in every workplace, okay? Basically, OSH mandates reduction, removal, or even replacement, at least replacement of job hazards. That is, we're going to make use of alternatives so that we can replace the hazard. Another is OSH minimizes the effects of hazards, and OSH benefits the employee because healthy employees are guaranteed more productive. Okay, so occupational health standards actually the Department of Labor and Employment. And these standards mandate the adoption use of appropriate practices, processes, and work conditions that are reasonably necessary to ensure a healthful and safe employment. We have a lot of, in this book, as you can see, we have 30 or more general rules on safety standards in the Philippines. Okay, and under those rules, there are sub rules. That's why we decided not to enumerate all those standards anymore, because it would take us around another day if we're going to list all those things. Okay, I just want to show you an example, and this is of course very relevant in our university. This is just one of the rules. Okay. Please. Rule 1950. This covers the use and handling of pesticides and fertilizers. Under this general rule, we have Rule 1957. Okay, so the disposal of unwanted materials. There are three. Okay, under this 1957 rule. First is that we have to return the unwanted materials, let's say empty bottles or empty containers of pesticides or packagings of pesticides, to the supplier who repurchased such pesticides or fertilizers. Another, or number two, rule for this 1957 is for us to bury the unwanted materials or waste materials of pesticides and fertilizers deep underground. Okay, and that for me is not acceptable. I believe that the Department of Environment and Natural Resources has to talk or has to discuss it with the with DOLE. And the third one is to burn or incinerate this waste materials of pesticides and fertilizers in such a way that they're not going to pollute the atmosphere. And that is something that has to be specified as to how they're going to burn those unwanted materials. All right. Another benefit of implementing OSH standard in all workplaces is, of course, the observance of the policies stipulated under PD 626, or the Employees Compensation and State Insurance Fund. Okay. Here in our university, I believe that this is being observed and this is being availed of by university employees. But then there are still a lot of employers, okay, who do not, who refuse to introduce this or to discuss this with or to their employees. I just want to cite an example. The incident that happened to one of our co-employees, Miss Blisilda Cabansag Navalta, when a dry branch of acacia tree fell on her head or dropped on her head around 2 or 3 months ago. She could have availed of benefits from this EC or employee compensation program, but she wasn't confined to the hospital, so she just opted not to avail. Kasi sayang naman. Can you still hear me? Narinig ako, sir. Okay. So I just want to show you the benefits under the Employees Compensation Program, or PD 626. One is loss of income benefit or cash benefit given to a worker to compensate for loss of income due to inability to work. One reason, for example, is temporary total disability, The second is permanent total disability. And the third one is permanent partial disability. We also have medical benefits. That is reimbursement of cost of medicine for illness or injury, payment to providers of medical care, hospital care, surgical expenses, and the cost of appliances and supplies. The term appliances, as stipulated or as used in this section, refers to crutches and wheelchairs and other similar things that an injured or disabled person needs. And the medical services, of course, are limited to ward services during confinement. So kapag hindi na-confine, hindi po na-avail. The third one is rehabilitation services, provision of remedial treatment, and vocational assessment and preparation. This is, of course, designed to meet individual needs of each handicapped employee in order to restore him to suitable employment and to help each person with work-related disability to develop his or her mental or social potential. So, halimbawa, yung isang worker po natin ay hindi na niya kayang perform yung kanyang dating trabaho, mag-undergo po siya ng training upang sa ganun makapagtrabaho ulit siya. Okay? So, he will still be worthy of staying in his work. Another is carer's allowance. It is provided to an employee who suffers permanent partial or permanent total disability. Yung mag-alaga po sa mga na-disable na empleyado. I just don't know, hindi ko alam kung gaano kahaba yung panahon na ipo-provide yung carer's allowance. Another is death benefits, and which include funeral and employee compensation death pension that is granted to beneficiaries of an employee who died as a result of compensable sickness or injury. When it comes to the OSH policies and programs, occupational safety and health policies and programs will be formulated and developed by the members of the OSH committee that has been formed by our university president. So we still have to work on that. Just in case I will be included as a member of the OSH committee, then we will still be working on that para makompleto po namin. All right. Just let me know if I'm going too fast, kapag masyado pong mabilis or kapag mabagal. Yes. You can just show me this sign, okay? And I know that it is a reminder for me to slow down because I really have the tendency to be too fast sometimes. Okay, just let me know. All right, so now we have to start module 2, and here's the objective. After this presentation, participants will be able to understand, learn, and discuss basic concepts of OSH towards an effective OSH implementation in the workplace. So we have to discuss general concepts. Actually, this is a lengthy part of this presentation, okay? I actually thought of not including this, but then Department of Labor and Employment, the Department of Labor and Employment, and the Civil Service Commission might be asking us to submit the instructional materials that we use in this training. So we just have to be honest that this has been included in the presentation. So in this module, we're going to study the different accident causation theories. Okay, I'll be discussing one by one, and I'll be showing you examples. One is accident causation theories, or let's say the domino theory. This theory posits that injuries result from a series of factors, and one of which is accident. Okay, an accident results to injury. Okay, and we have 5 factors leading to accident according to this theory. One is social environment. Another is fault of person. Another is unsafe act, or mechanical failure, or physical hazard, accident, and injury. Let me just share one example of unsafe acts or unsafe practices. Okay. I took these pictures around 3 weeks ago. Actually, yung building na to, makikita po natin sa kabila lang po, just across the OUS. 3-story building yan, makikita po niyo yung mga tao na sa taas, they're doing something. I'm not really particular with the task that they were carrying out when I took this picture. But then the point is that they were working at the top of the 3-story building without wearing safety harness. So kapag may nahulog po dito, bagok, patay. Papakita po natin yan sa video kung ano ginagawa nila sa taas. Wala silang safety harness, oh. Wala. Oh. May story siya to. Nagturod daw ito eh. Nag-ngato na eh. Alright. And may papakita pa namin pa kami sa inyo. Isang nagturod dahil scope. Walang harness. Oh my God. Yan ay nakita ko sa harap ng sa tawid ng Middle Campus sa may Peralta building po yata yan. And ito naman may isa pang video para makita lang po natin yung mga pagkakamaling ginagawa ng tao. Unsafe acts, unsafe practices. Okay, sisunod sir. Okay. Yan po. Yung picture sa kaliwa, I took that habang nandun ako sa may building niyo, sir. Oh, GIS building. Babasaan ako noon. Nakita ko yung nagtatrabaho sa kabilang building po ng North diyan. May naglilinis po ng bintana. Wala po silang safety harness. That is an unsafe practice. Yung picture po sa gitna, that is an example of an unsafe condition. Nandun po sa may malapit sa may elementary department. Malapit na rin po sa may canteen ng North La Union Campus. Malamang na-action na rin po yan kasi na-report ko po yan last year. Okay? So kitang-kita po ninyo dito, partially covered by grass yung narrow drainage canal na ito. Masikip lang, pero kasyang-kasya po yung paan ng bata, paan ng tao dyan. So kapag may tumatakbong bata, halimbawa, naglalaro sila, naghahabulan, at napasok po dyan paan ng bata, broken leg. Yung rightmost picture, tingnan po natin yung grill ng drainage natin. Meron pong natanggal na part ng grill na yan. So kasya po dyan ang paa ng bata. Sinubukan kong ilagay yung paa ko tapos lang ako talagang kasyang-kasa yung paa ko. So that is another hazard, okay? Unsafe condition is a hazard that can cause injury or even death. Madi-define po yan mamaya. Okay. Next theory is the human factors theory or accident causation. It attributes accidents to a chain of events caused by human error overload, inappropriate response, and inappropriate activities. Look at this. Yan po. Okay? As you can see sa left picture, yung hindi ko natin alam if the guy behind the forklift is a supervisor. This is an unsafe practice. He doesn't have to ride at the back of the forklift, or let's say on the counterweight of the forklift. Kasi kapag hindi na kayanan ng yung kanyang karga, yung kanyang load at tumaob po yan, may hampas po siya sa harap, madadagnan. Alright? Paki-mute po yung microphone niyo kapag hindi pa napipresent. Sa kanang picture naman, this is of course an inappropriate response. Just because the forklift has to carry, let's say, a heavy load that is beyond its workload limit, the operator put something or tied something behind the forklift that is an additional weight to the counterweight. Okay? Yung counterweight po kasi yan yung nagbe-bear ng load upang kaya po niyang kargahin yung nasa harap. Kaso nga lang, masyado mabigat yung karga niya, naglagay siya ng karagdagang counterweight. That is, of course, improper. Nagdudulot po yan ng aksidente. Okay? Another is accident or incident theory of accident causation. This is an extension of human factors theory. And of course, this theory introduces such new elements such as ergonomic traps, the decision to err, and systems failure. Okay, look at this. Look at this picture. This is an example of a worker's decision to err. Okay, look at the guy is using an angle grinder that does have expirations, and maybe specifications on the speed of the grinder and the maximum speed that can be bore by the disc. There must have been a problem with that. While the man was grinding, the disc shattered, nabasag po yung disc, and then a fragment spun into his forehead. Tamang-tama sa forehead niya. Paktay po yung tao. Okay, that was in Saudi Arabia. Sa paggamit po ng grinder, kapag may mga kasama po tayo dyan na mga taga general services or auxiliary services, I want to put emphasis on this. Pati rin po sa inyong lahat. Halimbawa, may mga kapatid o mga magulang kayo nagtatrabaho gumagamit ng grinder sa bahay niyo. Huwag na huwag pong tatanggalin yung guard ng disc. At the same time, you have to make sure that the disc is not expired. Meron pong expiration dyan, makikita po ninyo sa label ng disc. And then, dapat nagmamatch yung RPM or maximum speed na kaya ng disc. Sa ganon, sa maximum speed na napiperform ng grinder ninyo. Kapag hindi nagmatch po yan, the tendency is that the disc will shatter, and once it is shattered, fragments will go anywhere. It can be spun, I mean, the fragments can be spun anywhere. Kapag napunta sa tao, kawawa. Next is, of course, systems failure, as mentioned in this theory. Sa paggamit ng forklift, nagkakaroon po yan minsan ng mechanical or hydraulic failure. Halimbawa, may load po yung forklift at pumutok yung hydraulic hose, bagsak yung load, may madidisgrasyang tao. Sana huwag naman. Minsan ang bumibigay naman ay yung chain. Kapag bumigay yung chain, naputol, bagsak yung load, nakakadisgrasya. Alright. Ito, the next one is the epidemiological here's the epidemiological theory of accident causation, and I want to put emphasis on this as well. This theory posits that models that are used for studying and determining the relationships between environmental factors and disease can be used to study causal relationships between environmental factors and accidents. Now, let's take a look at the epidemiological triad. or let's say the epidemiological theory of accident causation. There are three elements in this triad or epidemiological triad of accident causation. One is the agent. This is originally referred to as an infectious microorganism or pathogen. The second one is host, and this refers to the human who can get the disease. And the third element is, of course, the environment, which refers to extrinsic factors that affect the agent and the opportunity for exposure. Okay? Now, upon understanding, okay, the elements that are involved in this epidemiological triad, let me show you this epidemiological triad of accident. Yan naman. Okay. Here are the three elements. First is the agent. Nandyan po yung electricity. It is something that is indispensable. Okay, wherever we go, whatever kind of industry where we work, nandyan at nandyan po ang electricity. And the next element is the host, yung tao na maaaring maging biktima. And the third one is the environment, or let's say the work condition. Okay. Nakita nyo dito that the man on the bottom left picture is coiling an electrical cable. And the other picture at the bottom right is that the man is standing on a wet surface or wet floor. The main reason why I thought of presenting this to you is that I want to relate to you what actually happened in our company way back 1998. Okay? Kapag kilala po ninyo si Mr. Ret Gonzaga, yung nurse po natin sa College of Agriculture, Rosario, South La Union Campus. Okay? Nagtrabaho kami ni Sir Ret Gonzaga from 1997 to 2000, pero nung dito na lang kami nagkita sa DIMSU noong 2014. Nagkita kami noong 2011, pero hindi ko alam na siya yung Ret Gonzaga at hindi rin niya alam na ako yung nakakausap niya sa radyo na Napoleon Kayabia. Alright. It was actually in Alilum, Ilocos Sur, okay? At the workshop, there were two contractors, employees of contractors, okay? They were carrying out grinding and drilling tasks at the workshop. So, when they were finished with the task, the main worker, the one who was grinding, asked his assistant to coil and unplug the cable. So while the man was coiling the cable, habang katkatikatin na de kable, ang kamo Tagalog katkatikat apo, he was also moving closer, okay, to the wall where the plug was connected. While he was moving closer, it was at the time that he was standing on the wet ground, on wet surface, kasi tag-ulan po doon. Gumagawa kami ng hydropower plant doon. And then his hand slipped through a broken insulator of the cable. Nakuryente po siya, instantly doon na rin po namatay. Kawawa. Ang mali po dyan, sa nangyari niyan, kinuha niya yung dulo ng kable, kinatikat nan, apan nauksutan, ijasaksakan. That is a wrong practice. Dapat ang ginawa niya, punta muna sa may saksakan, sa may wall outlet or AC outlet, binunot niya, saka niya dapat i-coil yung cable o katikatin yung cable. Alright? The worker was actually wearing safety shoes, but then during the investigation, it turned out, crack po yung suelas ng kanyang safety shoes. Patay po yung tao. Patay din po yung tao. Ako po hindi nagsisinungaling, totoong nangyari ito. Sa Alilum, Ilocos Sur, Bacon Hydropower Project, na kung saan kami ay gumawa ng tunnel, 10-kilometer tunnel mula Bacon, Benguet hanggang Alilum, Ilocos Sur. May tatanong po natin yan kay Mr. Ret Gonzaga. Another thing. Next example. This is something that Mr. Ret Gonzaga cannot forget because this happened at their working site in Bakun Benguet. Ako kasi nasa San Fernando ako noon, and once a week or twice a month pupunta ako sa Alilim, Ilocos Sur to visit the site. Siya steady po sa Bakun Benguet. One of the mechanics or one of the workers, okay, was working on a flat tire of a heavy equipment. Okay, tingnan po natin dito sa epidemiological triad of accident that is cited here as an example. Compressed air, yan po yung pwedeng makakadisgrasya. That is the agent. Next is yung dalawang tao nagtatrabaho. Yung rim po kasi ng mga malalaking sakyan, merong ring yan, may ring, natatanggal, pwedeng tumalsik. And then, the third element here is represented by the symbol of a heavy equipment tire that is inflammation or during inflation. Ngayon ginawa ng that I wanted to present is that yung trabaho ng tao sa environment na yan, he attempted to inflate the flat tire without placing it inside the cage. Nakalapag po, nakapahiga po yung gulong noon. And yung tao, he was bending over because he was holding the nozzle of the tire inflator. Okay? Hindi yung nangyari sa Bakun Benguet. Katrabaho ni Mr. Gonzaga. Sumabog po yung gulong, natanggal yung lock, tumama sa noo ng tao, yung ring, yung locking ring ng rim. Basag yung noo ng tao. Sa awa ng Diyos, buhay. Halimbawa lang po yan. Meron pa pong isang halimbawa. Ipapakita sa inyo. Yan. Sa mga security personnel naman ito. Firearm safety, revolver. Most revolvers have 6-hole cylinder, okay? 6, karamihan. Meron ding 8, merong 5. Yung mga old revolvers, walang blocking steel na tinatawag, okay? So kapag nahulog yung man lang po. Okay. Wala pong laman na safe po tayo. Okay. Ang baril kapag nahulog po natin, ang tendency niyan, pag ganyan, kasi nandito po ang timbang, especially revolvers. Pag tama niyan, natatamaan yung hammer, napupukpok ng hammer yung pin, natatamaan ng pin yung primer ng bala, pumuputok po yan. Okay? Kaya ang ginagawa po nila, as a safety precaution, okay? Hindi pinupuno yung cylinders ng revolver. Dapat merong isang bakante for safety reasons. I just decided to include this in this presentation kasi nangyari po ito sa provincial jail ng La Union. Isa sa mga katrabaho ng kuya ko, okay, magbibihis na. Kukunin sana niya yung pantalon niya sa kanyang locker. Paghila niya ng locker ng pantalon niya, sumama yung revolver na nasa cabinet. Okay? Paghulog ng revolver, he attempted to catch the revolver habang pababa yung revolver na ganyan. Pumutok yung revolver kasi tumama po yung hammer niya. Ang swerte niya, ang tinamaan ay ang kanyang sombrero, lumipad. 1 inch na lang, muntik nang lumipad ang kanyang ulo. Okay? So mag-ingat po tayo sa pag-handle ng revolver. Hindi pa po ako tapos, pero maraming salamat sa pagtsatsaga ninyong nakinig at tumingin. Am I right for using the word tumingin? Tiningnan niyo yung mga example na yan. Alright. Next is the systems theory of accident causation. This theory views any situation in which accident might occur as a system. There are also 3 elements, the person, machine, and environment. Take a look at this example. Okay, the operator of this excavator decided to work in a place where there are power lines, okay? And of course, his equipment snagged with the cables, so it caused an accident. Now, let me just show you Unsafe Acts. Because the term Unsafe Act has been mentioned in the previous slides, particularly in one of the theories. Take a look at this. Look, Unsafe Act or unsafe acts are performed anytime by an employee who fails to abide by safety rules and protocols. Oras na hindi mo sinunod ang safety protocols or safety practice, that is already an unsafe act. Ito naman. Huwag po kayong magalit sa akin ha. Saan po yan? Saan po yan? Okay. Yung kasama po natin, si Manong, gumagamit po ng grass cutter. Wala pong net barrier sa kanyang working area. Nangyari po ito sa South Union Campus sa sasakyan ni Professor Professor Basa, Conrado Basa. Meron pong naglilinis, gumagamit ng grass cutter, may natamaang bato, and of course, the spinning cutter blade, or let's say the nylon trimmer, okay? Kapag umiikot po yan, masyadong mabilis. High RPM po yan. Kapag nakatama po yan ng bato, syempre tatalsik yung bato. Ang nangyari, tumalsik sa bintana ng sasakyan ni Professor Conrado Basa. Basag po yung windshield. Ay yung salamin. Kapag tumama po sa ulo ng tao, halimbawa, nakapag-cause po ng injury yan. Okay? Halimbawa lang po yan. Obserbahan po natin, kapag gagamit po tayo ng grass cutter, maglilinis tayo, maglalagay po tayo ng barrier dyan. Okay? That will separate the working area from the road or from the place where people walk upang hindi po tayo makadisgrasya. Alright? Next. Saan po yan? Okay. Actually, na-report ko na po ito pero na-actionan na rin. Hindi pa inayos kaagad kasi kailangan yung contractor po noon na gumagawa ng rewrapping job dito ay kailangan nilang magbaba ng materyales. Pero dapat ma-action na rin po ito. Kasi masyado pong mababa yung railing ng short bridge nito. Yan. Nung baguhan pa ako dito sa Enlook, namasyal ako sa loob ng campus, merong dalawang estudyante babae na sabi, ay, inyamutin kasi natin nag-cellphone ko, sabi yung isang babae. Siya nga mismo, nung naitulak, muntik na siyang nahulog. Mas pinanghinayaan pa niya yung cellphone niya, muntik nang nahulog. Siya mismo muntik nang nahulog. Napakabound na nasa knee level lang po yan, yung railing. Dapat malagdagan pa ng at least 1.5 feet or let's say 2 feet para mas mataas ng konti. And dapat ma-extend po yung railing na yan sa bandang western side para mas humaba konti. Okay? Sa mga presentations ko, magpapakita ko ng mga examples ng mga actual na nakita ko sa mga campuses natin. But then I am not trying to single out any campus. Nagkataon lang na dito ko nakita. And we are committed to correct whatever is wrong. Next, accident prevention, as included in our topics. This refers to the plans, preparations, and actions taken to avoid or stop an accident before it happens. It also includes all measures taken in an effort to save lives, escape injury, lessen the degrees of injury, reduce loss of properties, and compensation costs, and time loss, and moral loss of the concerned organization. Yan lang. This is what my father has been telling me since I was a young boy. Kapag may ginagawa ako noon, kahit gumagawa lang ako ng laruan ko, yan ang nire-remind niya sa akin. Don't wait for an accident to teach you the value of safety. Sa awa ng Diyos, I've had a total of 16 vehicular accidents. Buhay pa ako. Siguro yan ang dahilan kung bakit napaka-sensitive ng aking mata kapag nakakita ko ng hazards. Look, don't learn safety by accident, okay? Some are lucky that they learned safety from an accident. Others were very unlucky because they died before learning a single lesson from an accident. Hindi sila sinuwerte. Now, Here are the benefits of having safety and health practices in the workplace. That is to protect employers and their staff from injury, illness, or coming into any other form of harm in the workplace. That is part 4, section 1C. So is good housekeeping. I want to emphasize that. Good housekeeping. Good practices prevent common workplace injuries such as back pain, falling from height, asthma, injuries from slips and trips, and asbestos-related illness. So bawal pong gumamit ng asbestos sa workplace. Ito po, halimbawa, health hazard in painting inside the office. Okay? Ito ay pahapyaw lang po ha. May didiscuss po ni Sir Randy na Nabasca mamaya yung bahaging about hazard ito. Pahapyaw lang. Upang maiwasan natin yung accident or illness. Ito halimbawa, yung health hazard in painting inside the office. So, yung meron po tayong exposure to lead. Na alam po natin very harmful po yan sa kalusugan natin. One control is elimination. That is, you have to decide not to use paint. Maybe you're going to use other decorative things that you may apply on the wall. Parang hindi nga pintura. Other is substitution. Na parang elimination din siya, but then you still have to make use of paint. Yun nga lang, you have to make sure that it is a lead-free paint. Titingnan po ninyo yung symbol ng pintura sa may baba ng lata, malapit na sa bottom, nakalagay po doon, lead-free. Alright? Another is engineering, that you're going to use effective two-way ventilation. Kung saan pumapasok yung hangin, halimbawa, maglagay kayo doon ng industrial fan na hihigop ng hangin mula sa labas papasok. At tapos sa kabilang dulo naman, maglagay kayo ng industrial fan na hihigop ng hangin mula sa loob ng workplace papalabas. That is the use of two-way ventilation as an engineering control. Administrative controls, management order not to use building until fume has waned. Kapag nahampay nagmamaw din yan ay ingel, tipintura, yung fume na, it is a part of administrative control na sabihin ng management na hindi pa pwedeng gamitin ng building. And the last one is, of course, the use of PPE or personal protective equipment. That is, of course, the use of chemical respirators in the workplace. Okay? Mahaba-haba po ang discussion natin. Now, definition of terms. I also thought of not including this, but then required, kaya in-include ko siya. First, safety hazards are unsafe working conditions that can cause injury, illness, or even death. Yung nasa picture po na ito, yung tao dyan, tinamad na bumaba gamitin ng hagdanan, nag-attempt siyang bumaba sa may umaandar na conveyor belt. Hinigop po siya ng conveyor belt. Mapapanood niyo po yan mamaya. Next, sa safety hazard, you have to be very aware, or you have to be very conscious about the existence of cables or cords on the ground, wet floors or wet surface, unguarded moving machinery parts that a worker can accidentally get in contact with or can touch. Electrical hazards like frayed cords and confined spaces. Now, may naalala ako. Sa unguarded moving parts, nung ginagawa po yung expansion ng Holcim, Baknotan Cement pa yata yun noon. Ito ay kwento mismo ng isa sa mga plant engineers nila. Biyanan po ni Ma'am Genevieve Arcano, si Engineer Demetrio Arcano Sr. Okay? Isa sa mga workers, break time, naglalakawan niyang keychain na may keychain nga, may chain siya. Medyo mahaba. Okay. Habang gumagan siya, naglalakad, umaandar po yung conveyor sa tabi niya. May railing po yan. Kaso sumagi yung key holder niya, keychain niya, sa may conveyor, inattempt niyang kunin o hilain, nakuha naman yung loose end ng kanyang sleeve or working clothes. Nahila po siya, naipit ng conveyor, patay. Okay? So, example lang po yan. Next, safety hazard, as I've just mentioned. Ano po yung nakikita niyong hazard sa left picture? Magtatanong nga po ako, nasaan po sila? Nasaan po yung pwede nating tanongin dito? Ma'am Annalyn Sagun? Busy? Sino kaya? Okay, wag na lang. Sabihin ko na lang. Si Ma'am Annalisa Ordinario. Ma'am, nandyan po kayo? Ma'am, sa left, yes ma'am, sa left picture,
Yes
pakitukoy
po.
nga po ma'am kung nasaan
Yes
dyan
po.
yung hazard. Left picture po ma'am, left picture po.
Sa roof po.
Di,
Saan ito, ma'am?
di ba kalsada po
Yung
yan? May mas may
hazard.
building sa kanan.
Yes. Right. Ito, yung left po is mayroon pong, ayan, parang ladder.
Yes.
Yung sa harapan ng entrance ng building.
Yes ma'am. You got it.
Yun po.
Palakpakan po natin ma'am, palakpakan po natin.
Ayan.
Ang mali po dito, yung hagdanan ng building na yan, nag-protrude sa may kalsada. Okay? Papunta po yan sa may College of Education. May ng Midland campus, okay? Dapat po yung hagdanan na yan, pipinturahan po yan ng dilaw with a contrasting dark, alright? Sa picture naman na sa kanan is very obvious. Yan yung nakita ko sa Midland Union last week, sa Midland Union campus. Papauwi na sana ako pero nakita ko yung natatanggal ng bahagi ng gutter. So, I called up the attention of Sir Fontanilla at tinanggal po namin yan. Gumamit na lang po kami ng PVC pipe para masungkit po yan, matanggal na. Alright? So, maging sensitive po yung mata natin sa mga hazard. Sa mga hazards. Next. Okay, as I've said, I'm not trying to single out any campus. Okay, nagkataon lang doon ko nakita. Siya ulit. Ano po yung nakikita niyo yung hazard dyan? Ma'am Annalisa? Iba naman? Okay. Sino kaya? Sir Kevin Sibol? Ano po yung nakikita nating hazard dyan sa picture na yan? Sa presentation na yan? Wala siya? Kevin Elias. Sir Kevin Elias. Kasama ko dati sa Rosario. Or kahit sino na po sa inyo. Ano po yung nakikita niyong hazard dyan? Okay. Ganito po yan. Sa College of Arts and Sciences, left po ha, sa same slide. Yung antenna, which is yung antenna pole po nila ng kanilang Wi-Fi, ay nandun po sa taas, wala po siyang tinatawag na guy wire. Yung wire na nasa taas na humihila from all corners sana sa baba. Halimbawa, makikita nyo dyan sa base niya, ganyan lang, kataas mula sa base. So, it is not enough to hold the pole kapag mayroong malakas na hangin. Once that pole gets encountered or gets caught with strong wind, pwedeng mahulog yan at may tao sa baba, matatamaan, aksidente na naman po yan. So, may mangyaring disgrasya. Tingnan nyo po sa may kanang picture, yan po ay sa itaas ng College of Information Technology. Okay. Kitang-kita po ni Chancellor yan, kaya tiniyak niyang 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 from all directions. Kahit tapos siya si Lord Eduardo Corpus, agyaman ako na nung dati na edad Pinay College of Arts and Science, Midland Union Campus, dati iti may kantay ko iti na guy wires na. Okay? Next po, safety hazards. Naipakita ko na yan kanina, pero o man hindi ko natanggal. Next. Yan. Na-report ko na rin po ito and malamang na-action na rin po yan. Sa may fence po ng tennis court, makikita po niyo dyan yung electrical wires. Electrical wires na naka-fence, bakal po yan. Nakakonect po yung wire ng mga yan galing sa old administration building or new administration building pala. Ngayon, kitang-kita po niyo yung mga connections na nabalot ng electrical tape, nakadikit po siya sa bakal. Kapag nagkaroon po ng moisture dyan, lalo na po tag-ulan, there will be electrical conductivity between the cable and the fence. Kapag may kumapit po dyan, na tennis player, halimbawa, pagod, sumandal, o kaya pinulot yung bola, nasagi yung kamay niya sa fence na yan, at merong electrical conductivity, paktay, kuryente po ang mangyayari. Alright? Electrocution, sabi nga nila. Alright? Magmerienda muna kayo habang nakikinig sa aking presentation kasi medyo matagal-tagal pa to. Next, tingnan po natin ito. Panoorin po natin. Okay? Narinig pa rin ako kung sakali. Hindi na. Ayan yung trabahador. Umapak siya sa may dulo ng conveyor belt. May mga kausap siyang mga katrabaho niya sa baba. May ibinibigay na instruction sa kanya. Obviously, nag-uusap. Baba. Hinila ng conveyor belt yung tao. Naipit. Nakakaawa po. Yan po. Yan. Yan yung nakatakot na nakatingnan na bahagi niya. Patay po yung tao dyan. Susunod naman. Welder accident in confined space. Panoorin po natin. Mga inaakala natin walang aksidente yung mangyayari, doon nangyayari. Alright. Patay na yung apoy. Parang wala nang aksidente. Boom! Biglang sumabog. Kung kailan patay na yung apoy, doon nagkaroon ng explosion. Naipon yung hot temperature sa loob, yung fume build up sa loob, nagkasalubong, meron pong oxygen, pasok pong oxygen sa loob, nagkaroon ng explosion. Ganun po yung tatlong element kasi ng fire. May fuel, merong ignition, merong oxygen. Kompleto po, kaya sumabog yun sa may workplace ng tao. Kawawa. Next. Yan na. Hazard versus risk. Ito yung napagpapalit-palit natin kung minsan. Okay? That's why I want to make this clear. A hazard is something that can cause harm. Okay? Katulad po niyang kabling nakalatag, nakalaid sa floor or sa ground. And the risk is the chance, whether high or low, that any hazard will actually cause harm. Yung risk po niyan ay yung impact, severity ng aksidente or injury na masasuffer ng tao because of the presence of that hazard. This example, very low risk, these risks are considered applicable. So yung tao, nagtatrabaho gamit ang A-type ladder, nag-grind siya. Ang posibleng mangyari sa kanya dyan, ay mahuhulog, magkamali. But then, very low risk kasi kung mahulog man siya, mababa pa naman siguro yung lugar. Okay? Kaya kahit hindi siya nagsuot ng safety harness, parang okay lang naman siya dyan. Okay, and then A-type ladder pa lang yung gamit niya, hindi naman yung slanting. So, okay pa lang siya dyan. Very low risk. That is acceptable. Next. Pagdating naman sa low risk, no additional controls are required unless they can be implemented at a very low cost. Katulad yan, low risk na siya kasi gumagamit naman yung mga trabahadores dito, yung mga trabahadores, workers dito, gumagamit naman sila ng safety harness. Ngayon, kapag gumamit pa tayo ng safety net, kapag net yan na nakalatag sa baba upang hindi diretso sa tubig o sa ground yung tao, pwede rin maglagay as long as it is cost effective, hindi gaanong mahal. Okay. Next is medium risk. Considerations should be, in terms of this risk, considerations should be given as to whether the risk can be lowered to acceptable level. Yan po, nagtataka siguro kayong bakit yung safety harness ng tao na nasa picture ay dalawa ang kanyang safety lanyard. Lanyard with grab hook ang tawag dyan. Ngayon, kapag isa ang lanyard, sinasabi nila, 50% safe lang yung tao. Kapag ganyan daw, 100%. Which is wrong. Actually, ito tinatawag nating 100% na safe yung tao. Ganito kasi yan. At hindi naman ibig sabihin na kapag isa yung lanyard mo ay 50% lang. No. Pero ganito ang lanyard. Lilipat ako halimbawa sa workplace ko, sa trabaho ko, elevated area. Ikakabit ko yung lanyard ko dito. Punta ako sa kabila. Ikakabit ko na lang yung isang lanyard. Babalikan ko yung isa. Yung saan ako nanggaling. Lalakad ako, lilipat, dadaanan ko yung isa, ikakabit ko na naman sa ibang safety anchor, yung aking lanyard. Hanggang sa makarating ako kung saan ko gustong puntahan. Kung saan ko kailangan pumunta. I'm sorry. So yan ang gamit niyan. Habang naglalakad ka, habang lumilipat ka, meron pa ring lanyard and hook na nakakabit sa safety anchor. Kung saan mang anchor, pwedeng ikabit yan. Okay? Yan ang gamit niyan. So, na-reduce yung risk at an acceptable level. Yun lang po ang ibig kong sabihin. High risk, this risk in this level needs substantial effort so they can be reduced. So, maybe suspending or restricting the activity may be necessary as a risk reduction measure. All right. Yan, high risk na po yan. Ganyan po yung sinasabi ko kanina na kung saan kami naging magkatrabaho ni Mr. Red Gonzaga pero hindi nga kami nagkita. Yan po yung method na ginawa namin sa tunneling. Yan yung tinatawag nating drill and blast method ng pagtatunnel. Babarinaan namin yung wall sa ilalim ng bundok kasi bato ang matigas po yan. Pag na-drill na po namin yung mga butas ng mga 1 meter or 3 meters, ipapasok po namin yung explosives, mga dynamites. Kapag naipasok na, ikakabit po yung mga wires, nandun na rin po yung mga blasting caps. Kapag na-set na lahat, aalis kami. Pupunta kami sa tinatawag nilang adit. Parang isang sangayon ng tunnel upang hindi kami matamaan ng mga debris. Pag pinasabog, sumabog na, tsaka namin i-excavate yung mga debris. Okay? Ganyan lang po. High risk na po yan. Kasi kapag nag-explode, maaring mag-collapse yung taas ng bundok. Okay? Ayan po, very high risk. These risks are unacceptable and therefore, work stoppage order is very much imperative. Halimbawa lang po yan nasa picture. High risk na po yan. Okay. Now, dito naman tayo sa health hazards. Okay. Health hazards are chemical, physical, or biological factors in our environment that can have negative impacts on our short or long-term health. And this hazard can be sustained through skin contact, inhalation, or ingestion. Pwedeng sa skin natin, nalalanghap natin, or I don't know. Basta nalulunok. I'm sorry, nalulunok po natin. Okay. Sa workplace natin, office workers, okay? Office workers. Here are the things to check in a workplace, okay? Paints must be lead-free. Another, workplace must be asbestos-free. And quality of air must be checked regularly. That's why I have requested to purchase air quality tester. Gagamit po tayo ng air quality tester upang sa ganun, mamonitor po natin yung kalidad ng hangin na nilalanghap natin. If it is below the acceptable level, something has to be done. Ganun lang po yan. And you also have to beware of leaking hazardous gas. Now we have types of hazards. Biological hazards include exposure to harm or disease from working with animals, people, or infectious plant or animals. Yung biological yan, yung coronavirus. Yan. Sakit na po yan. Eh, kapag na-expose po tayo sa mga hospitals, yan po yung hazard na yan. Next, physical hazards can be any factor. And within the environment that can harm the body without necessarily touching it. One is radiation, that is an example, including ionizing and non-ionizing, electromagnetic fields, okay? And high exposure to sunlight. Mga kasama ko pong nagtatrabaho rin sa bukid. And constant loud noise. Halimbawa po yan, yung inaayos po yung CR natin dito sa Central Administration Building. Sinukat ko po yung level of noise, umabot po siya sa 85 decibels. Yan po ginagamit ko. So, nakita niyo habang nagsasalita ako, pumapalo po yung meter reading. So, 85 decibels hindi po acceptable yan, lalo na kapag napakatagal. Alright? Next. Ergonomic hazards occur when the type of work, body positions, and working conditions put strain on your body. Ito po yung mga kasali sa ergonomic hazards, improperly adjusted workstations and chairs, katulad po ni Sir Jomar dito, Sir Randy, kanina pa nakupo na kaganyan, mamaya masakit na yung likod. Frequent lifting, poor posture, and awkward movements, especially if they are repetitive, and having to use too much force, especially if you have to do it frequently. Aside from that is excessive vibration. Yung mga gumagamit po ng demolition hammer. Vibrators. Yan, chemical hazard. Yung naglilinis po na tayo ng CR, iwasan po natin gumamit ng muriatic acid kasi yan po yung semi-concentrated form ng acid na yan. Ang concentrated form na ang tinatawag nating hydrochloric acid. Nakuha mo natin gawin ng mga yan. Okay? May mabibili noon po tayong mas mild konti. Hindi gaanong matapang. So, in terms of chemical hazards, you have to beware of liquids like cleaning products, paints and acids, vapors and fumes, gases like acetylene, propane, and carbon, flammable materials like gasoline, solvents, and explosives. Kapag may nagva-varnish po sa loob ng opisina natin, nagpupintura, chemical hazards po mga yan. Okay? Next. Ito na po ang dahilan kung bakit napakahaba ng ating discussion. Work organization hazards. Safety hazards or stressors that cause stress, short-term effects, and strain, long-term effects that are associated with workplace issues such as workload, lack of control, and or respect, etc. Isa na po dyan, sexual harassment. Ito po yung mga halimbawa ng work organization hazards, workload, workplace violence, high intensity or pace, respect, or let's say the lack thereof. Control or say about things, kapag wala kang control sa mga bagay na gusto mong gawin, minsan na-stress ka. Social support relations or relations, and sexual harassment. Or e-safety in relation to cybercrime. Okay? Dito ko po kayo gustong i-guide, lalong-lalo na po sa mga kabaihan. So what is e-safety? Internet safety or e-safety means trying to be safe on the internet and in places where electronic devices are used. So self-protection from computer crime. All right? Yan. Usually, kapag tayo minsan pumupunta sa mga conferences, out of town, may meeting tayo, may seminar, halimbawa sa Baguio or sa Manila or overseas seminars, paper presentations, natutulog po tayo sa hotel kasi malayo naman pong bahay natin. And do you think you're safe? Kapag pumasok ka sa banyo ng hotel, may salamin doon, do you think you're safe? Yung salamin mismo sa inyong kwarto, sa hotel, is that safe? Safe from two-way mirrors? Safe ka ba? How about hidden cameras? Okay? So, kapag nandun tayo sa isang lugar, okay, where we expect privacy, and then there's a mirror that in front of us, okay, we are not so sure if the mirror we are facing or the mirrors around us are two-way mirrors. And we just don't know that we are being observed or recorded or photographed from an observation area or the other side of the two-way mirror. Ba't ko isinali ito sa discussions natin? Bakit? Yan po kasi ang dahilan. Under DO 108 series of 2018, Section 3, definition of terms, Clause AA. Workplace refers to any place of location where workers need to be present or to go to by reason of their work. This includes working areas, employee lounges, restrooms, conference rooms, and classroom spaces. Kasali po ang workplace natin. O kasali po ang CR or restroom sa workplace natin. So this is what you should do. Kapag nagdududa kayo, if you doubt a mirror in a CR, for example, kapag nandun kayo sa ibang lugar, ito ang isa ninyong pwedeng gawin. Ito ang isa sa mga pwede ninyong gawin, okay? This is one of the things that you can do. Fingernail test, okay? So if there's a gap, you just have to put the tip of your finger against the mirror, and if there's a gap between your nail and the mirror, it's most likely an ordinary mirror, okay? Kapag meron po siyang gap. Now, if it appears that your finger is directly touching the finger on the mirror, you might be at the risk of being photographed or filmed from an observation area. Kapag nagdumikit po siya, okay? Dapat may gap po yan. But then this is not 100% safe. Another thing that you can do is use a close-up test. You have to press your eyes up against the mirror and you have to cup your hands around your face. That is to help black out the light of the room that you are in. So if you think that you're facing a two-way mirror or two-way glass, you should probably be able to see somewhat an open area behind the mirror. Nice. Another thing, you may also use your phone's flashlight. So by turning off lights and holding up a flashlight to the mirror, you should be able to tell if the mirror is in fact a two-way glass mirror, two-way glass, because you'd be able to see the other side. Pinakamandang gawin nyo dyan, dapat mas mataas ang ilaw sa observation side kaysa sa lugar na kinakatayuan ninyo. So patayin yung ilaw sa kwarto ninyo or sa room na yan, and then gamitin yung flashlight ng phone ninyo, or if you have your own flashlight, the ordinary flashlight. Okay. Just a point of discussion. You may also give it a tap. Katukin mo yan. Kapag hollow yung naririnig nyo sa labas, parang window lang na kinakatok ninyo, then ang tunog po niyan is a little sharper. So most likely, that is also a two-way mirror wherein there is an observation area on the other side. Ngayon, Yung paglalagay po ba natin ng CCTV camera with audio recorder sa mga workplaces ay violation po ba ng privacy natin? Violation po ba yan? Okay. CCTVs in offices. Is it being used for eavesdropping, which is a crime under Republic Act number 4200 or the anti-wiretapping law? Ito po, there's a Supreme Court decision, the case of Polio versus Constantino David, General Record number 181881. And the Supreme Court has this to say. Employees in workplace have less or no expectation of privacy because an office is seldom a private enclave that is free from entry of supervisors, other employees, and other people such as vendors, suppliers, and applicants. Okay? So we don't have to expect privacy. That's why ang decision po ng Supreme Court hindi po masabing violation yung paggagamit natin ng violation of privacy yung paglagay natin ng CCTV with audio recorder sa mga offices. Huwag lang po naman po sa mga lugar like CR where people expect privacy. Ngayon, eto na naman. I'm calling the attention of ladies. Kapag pumapasok po kayo sa dressing room o kaya sa hotels, restroom ng hotels, o kaya kahit sa restroom natin mismo, I know, I'm somewhat sure na wala naman po tayong empleyado na maglalagay ng hidden camera sa mga CR natin dito. Pero, recently, paulit-ulit po yung pagpasok ng ibang tao dito, yung mga nagre-repair ng CR natin na paulit-ulit na. Hindi natin alam kung sinong maglalagay diyan ng hidden camera. Napakadaming klase na pwede nilang ilagay. Katulad yan, kung saan pwede nating isabit yung damit natin or anumang bagay, pwedeng may hidden camera dyan. Chargers, okay? Pwedeng meron. At ito, mga sprinklers, may hidden camera. Pati nga yung mga wall outlet, meron ding hidden camera. Pwede nilang lagyan. And then, ito yung isa sa mga malalang problema. Ito yung hood type trash bin or trash can, okay? Na kapag naka-half open po yan, at may naka-attach po na hidden camera or yung spy cam, nakatago na hidden camera. Oh, kalukuhan yata yun. Nakatagong spy cam pala. I'm sorry. Kanina ko lang naisip yun. May nakatagong spy cam sa loob. Half open yan. Sobrang nagtago. You know, the user of the restroom cannot easily check if there is a hidden camera that is attached in the inner wall of the trash bin kasi nakaganyan yung hood. Kapag nakatas na ganyan, full open, pwede pa siguro. Maliban na lang naka-half open yung hood na ganyan, igaganon mo pa, titingnan mo talaga. So, I remind ladies na pagpasok sa CR, merong trash can doon, you're going to kick that around, baguhin yung position yan. Huwag nyo mang sirain na sipain. I mean, you're going to use your leg, your foot. Baguhin nyo lang yung position ng trash can na yan. Upang kung sakaling mayroong camera dyan, at least hindi na nakafocus sa inyo. Okay? Nakatagong hidden camera. Bago yun sa sobrang tago. Alright. Okay. Sa mga mahilig pumunta sa hotel, halimbawa, nagbabakasyon, ganun, katulad ng kaibigan ko, a close friend of mine, okay, gumagamit po siya ng hidden camera detector. At saka binigyan po niya ako ng isa. May mga camera dito, CCTV. Yan. Madali pong makita yung camera ng kung sakali. Binigay lang po sa akin ng kaibigan ko. I don't really use it because I don't really love going to hotels. Expensive. Pwede po yung gumamit ng ganyan upang ma-detect po natin yung mga hidden cameras or let's say LED camera. Kapag Yung light naman sir, pang ano mo lang, pang madali mong mahanap yung ano, yung LED cam. Meron din pong app na ano. Papakita ko po sa inyo ha. Pasensya na at naabala ko na kayo. But then I wanna show you this. Okay. Detect infrared camera. Ito po ang itsura. Okay. Kapag halimbawa, kapag ginamit ni Sir Randy itong phone niya, nakaganyan, kapag naka-on yan, madali ko lang ma-detect. Bali, iilaw po yan. Yung part niya. Madali lang po makita. So, pwede rin po yung mag-download ng app. Hidden camera detector, mga ganun. Halimbawa. Pasensya na kanina. Nakatagong hidden camera. Diyos ko. Hindi ko makalimutan yan in my life. Alright, just like this. So, meron tayong mga mag-download na magnetometer or spectrometer apps. Okay? That is on e-safety. Ngayon, dito naman po tayo sa Module 3. Patapos na po ako. Huwag kayong mag-alala. Module 3 kay Sir Randy po pala ito. And by the way, that is the last part of my presentation. Maraming salamat po sa inyong pagtsatsaga sa pakikinig. And sana maging bahagi po ng practice natin yung pag-adapt ng occupational safety and health. Once again, thank you very much.
All right, andyan pa po ba tayo? So, shout out po muna tayo. College of Engineering, andyan din sila. College of Information Technology, from the OUS, from the Finance Services, from the HR, from the QA of MLOOC, from the registrar, from the research, from the scholarship, SAS, supply office, and many other more na individually nandito sa ating virtual meet. Andito rin po pala si Sir Eduardo, ang ating Chancellor for Midlothian Campus. Good morning, sir. Yes, sir. Thank you, sir, for attending. From the clinic, andyan po sila. So, the first presentation is just to give you a background, is a recorded presentation yesterday. It was held yesterday. And parang live naman po, di ba? And very informative yung binigay ng ating resource person. So, let's have a 10-minute break. Or do you want to have a break? Or proceed na po tayo? Just to give you a background or just to give you an idea of how many filled up the attendance sheet, meron na po tayong 373 signatories sa ating attendance. So I think we can proceed to the next presenter or presentation, which is about module 3 and 4, And let me introduce the resource person for these modules. So he is the motor pool or head of the motor pool services of the North La Union campus. He is also a certified safety officer 1. Let us all welcome Mr. Randolph I. Navasca of the North La Union campus. Okay, so welcome back to the continuation of our webinar on occupational safety and health. So before we proceed to the next module, let me introduce to you our next presenter. So our presenter is a certified safety officer 1, the in charge or the head of the motor pool services in the North La Union campus. Let us all welcome Mr. Randolph I. Navasca.
Good morning, everyone. Magandang tanghali po sa inyong lahat. It's already 10:22 and I believe I could deliver my presentation, the task assigned to me for an hour. Kasi halos na-discuss naman na lahat ni Sir Nap most on the uh, concerning hazards. So let me start my presentation by introducing to you the Module 3, which is a part of the 8-hour mandatory OSH training. So everyone should know this for us to get, or for the participants to be able to recognize safety hazards and appropriate safety measures in their workplace, in our workplace. So for us to identify them, here is a good procedure for us to know what are these hazards. The conduct of hierarchy before starting on a task. So nasaan yung hazard is nandoon sa task mismo. So hazard yung hierarchy na tinatawag natin, you may make this term during trainings ninyo. It's the hazard identification, risk assessment, and control. So how is hazard being practiced or being done? And using hierarchy of control for accident prevention and impact mitigation. So it is an accident prevention and it is an impact mitigation. In fact, dito makikita natin ang isang triangle. It is the hierarchy wherein it has the PPE, administrative controls, engineering controls, substitution, and elimination. Ito yung bagong model. This is a graphical representation of how to perform hazard identification, risk assessment, and control. Here is an example. Let us try to look at, everybody, let us try to look at this picture. Ito ay isang maintenance job, should be done by experts. You could see, ang defect nito ay replacement of the bracket dump box hydraulic cylinder. You may notice that hydraulic cylinder, makikita ninyo doon sa gitna, that is a cylinder. And yung hydraulic cylinder that has the ability to raise the hydraulic box or put it down. So now, yes, take a look. Let us take a look. Okay, represent. Sige. Yan. Take a look at this presentation wherein you have identified in that specific task the replacement of the bracket dump box hydraulic cylinder. It has already some of the actions being done by this somebody who has already assessed the hazard. Wherein the PPE, under PPE, they have to use protective equipment. Yung mga gagawa, technicians should use personal protective equipment. Wherein administrative controls, it deals with putting lockout, tag out, or you may encounter the term LOTO. Yan. Yung LOTO na tinatawag, lockout, tag out po yun. Anong silbi nun? Pwede nating lalagyan siya ng label that it is unserviceable or hazard is present in that location, in that specific area. And there should be somebody to attend to this. And of course, engineering controls. Ano yung hazard doon sa part na yon? You could see that merong pwedeng bumagsak at pwedeng bumagsak sa gagawa within that area sa pagbagsak ng hydraulic box. As an engineering control, you have to use or three support system stand. Parang ito yung pipigil sa kung sakaling babagsak yung bucket, ito yung pipigil para hindi siya tuluyan bumagsak ng tuluyan. And the next is the substitution. When we say substitution, ito yung replacement, papalitan. Ano yung kailangan mong palitan? If somebody, yung gagawa ay hindi naman expert doon, abay, delikado po yun. Kailangan natin ng mga trained or experts to do the job. So you could contact a contractor, somebody who knows how to do it, the specific job, safely. Para safe po yung gagawa, para maayos siyang magawa. And then, elimination. Anong eliminate po natin? Eliminate ba natin yung dump truck? Yes, it could be an option, but it could be that very costly. Kasi papalitan mo na yung dump truck para wala ka ng problema. When we say palitan, parang sa sinasabi natin na pagka hazardous na si boyfriend, di palitan mo si boyfriend, di ba? Ganun po yon. Okay, next. So let's apply to this situation, to this specific hazard. Okay? You may notice that this one, we have an electrical post here. Meron siya, dilapidated na siya. Rusted yung part na nakikita ninyo because it may be a very, very old structure, equipment. Nakalagay po dyan, it has an exposed wire. Exposed wire, pag ibig sabihin, pagka live wire po yan, it may tend to electrocution. Pag sinabing electrocution, andyan dumadaan sa mga lahat ng nagkakandak na bagay. That it could be you, tayo po, even animals, at lahat ng pwedeng makasagi dyan sa area na yan, within that specific part. Okay po. So when we will be applying the basic procedure, anong ang dapat mong gawin para pagka lumapit ka dyan, ikaw ang gagawa, is you have to use a protective equipment, personal protective equipment. Hindi ka basta-basta lalapit dyan na nakapaapaa lang or kamay lang. You should use a rubber boots. You should use a rubber gloves to deal with that electrical wires. Kasi posible yan. This is potential danger, potential hazard on that part. So, yun po yan. Let us proceed. So, maybe, as Sir Nap mentioned a while back, ang dami niyang sinet na example. Let me cite also some examples that may be fresh pa or maaring naalala nyo pa, mga situations na ganito. These pictures, kung maalala nyo, this picture happens on March 18, 1996, wherein, see, 162 people, mostly teenagers and young adults, celebrating their graduation, perish when a blaze engulfed the ozone disco. Sa ozone disco po yan. Sikat po yan noon. Which turned out to be the worst fire incident in the Philippines and the 7th worst fire incident in the world. Imagine, hindi po tayo nagpatalo. Top 7 po tayo when it comes to that fire disaster. Ito po yung nangyari dyan. With that single spark started on the ceiling above the disc jockey, sa taas lang ng disc jockey, yung DJ. But no one acted upon it. Walang awan tinangikas-kaso, walang pumansin, parang okay lang sa kanila because they are all into that partying disco. Yan. Since walang nagpumansin, fire started and immediately swallowed the entire place. Nasunog na yung area. As syempre, ang daming tao doon. Everyone got panic. Nagpanic sila. They get in a hurry to going out. Ito yung problema. The door can only open inwards. Ibig sabihin, kailangan mo pang hatakin yung pintuan bago ka makalabas. Dahil sa panic ng tao, hindi na nila alam kung paano sila makalabas. Now, it happens that na ang mga tao. And aside from that, the place could only occupy 100 people. Pero eto, about 300 customers were there. So overpopulated yung area. So yun ay isang example na maraming napansin na kumbaga violation which tends to cause the big disaster. Kaya nag-top 7 po tayo. And next, Another disaster, another incident, a tragedy. Napapansin po natin, this happens at ultra stampede. Or ito yung sinasabi natin na Wawawi stampede. Paano nangyari itong si Wawawi stampede? The crash happened when those outside people, those who wants to get inside the ultra, prompting security guards to close the entrance gate, wherein 10,000 capacity of the ultra, meron pang nag-aspire na pumasok na 3,000. Bakit? Because this Wawawi, this is first anniversary ng Wawawi noon, na ang price na in-offer nila is 1 million. Imagine 1 million. 1 million pesos ang kailangan nilang ipapremyo. Maraming umasa sa premyo. And then dinoble pa pala ng organizer yung premyo. So 2 million. Imagine 2 million. So ang daming taong nag-asam na makuha ang 2 million. So ganun nga po ang nangyari. This 10,000 capacity expected na capacity lang ng ultra, naging 30,000. So nagkaroon ng stampede, which happens that about 73 deaths and 400 injuries. And dagdag pa dyan, yung mga hindi na i-record na mga nasaktan na minor injuries. Then next incident. Eto. Recent lang po ito na nabalita. Way back October 31, 2018 at Natonin Mountain Province. Initial death on October 31 was 18. Pero later on, marami pa silang nakikita at marami pang missing which are considered to be part of the casualty. So anong nangyari dito sa Mountain Province? Ito, landslide po ito due to Typhoon Rosita. O baka naalala niyo na po. Dahil kay Typhoon Rosita po ito. Dahil sa bagyo, nagkaroon ng landslide, lumambot ang lupa, and mind you, ang natabunan po, 3 building po yan. Most building are part of the DPWH Cordillera. At ang laman noon, 20 laborers, and aside from that, mga engineers, 3 engineers yata yon. Ang daming na sama doon. So about 18 deaths, automatic lahat yung nandoon sa DPWH building yata, namatay ang dineclare nila. And the other missing. Okay. So ang daming mga incident na nangyari. And next, another incident. Ayan, sunog na naman. Ang daming ipakita ni Sir Nap kanina sa presentation niya na sunog. This fire incident happens in Valenzuela, a footwear factory. Yan, footwear factory. Ano factory kaya ito? Ang nagsusot ng Kentex Sleeper Factory. Only 45 survive. Ibig sabihin, only 45 survive. There are about 72 deaths. 45 plus 72. Yan ang workers niya. 45 lang ang natira. More than 50% na empleyado namatay dahil sa sunog. Ano yung issue dito? What causes or what happened? No proper fire exits. Walang magandang fire exit. So napakahalaga po ng mga fire exits natin dyan. Please take a look at your fire exits sa mga specific mga buildings natin. And barred windows. Stop them from getting out. Nung nagpanik na sila, wala na silang malusutan, dahil ang nangyari, nagkaroon ng sunog doon sa entrada. Doon sa processing area. And staff had not received proper fire safety training. Ito yung masaklap po. Yung walang training. Kaya po ito yung isang purpose natin kung bakit tayo nagkakandak ngayon ng training is to get you aware and be oriented in OSH. So napakahalaga po na mag-attend po tayo sa ganitong klaseng mga training. It adds knowledge, not only knowledge, but it adds protection later on na magagamit natin sa ating patuloy na pagtatrabaho rito sa ating mga work. Next incident, ito. Kung napapansin natin, landslide na naman. Saan po nangyari ito? San Juan Surf Area. Imagine, nandito lang, kalapit lang po natin. San Juan lang po yan. Kung alam niyo po, yung itinatayong bagong restaurant doon. need to mention yung kung anong restaurant po yun when you pass by sa tapat ng Kahuna. Nabanggit ko naman yung Kahuna. Okay. Sa tapat po ng Kahuna, yung magandang building na ginagawa doon sa bandang taas. Ito po, who are these casualty? Victims, taga-Kabaruan pa yun eh. Bernie de los Trinos at 25-year-old na Mason. Jovi Lima, 41-year-old, taga-Poblacion San Gabriel, baka kakilala pa po natin. And another 56 years old, Loreto Baroga from Ilocos Sur. But so happened, fortunately, si Mr. Baroga ay nakasurvive, has been stable after how many days nadinala sa hospital. These two died immediately dahil sila ay natabunan. It happens that the portion of this mountain area na ginagawa nila ng building is that the soil has collapsed. The soil in that area, in that eroded site, is sandy kasi malapit siya sa dagat, sandy. So it deals with that sandy soil within the location near the seaside. Okay? So it happens to loosen easily. Habang nagkakape daw yata sila kasi about 3 p.m. ito eh. So yung contractor, do I need to mention this one? ECDI, yan. ECDI nga. Contractor natin ito eh. So mag-ingat po tayo. Hindi sa ECDI, mag-ingat po tayo sa environment natin. Mga tabi ng building ninyo, tingnan ninyo, baka mamaya potential hazard na pala yung tabi ng building natin. O kaya baka may bangin naman na tumutubo. May tumutubong bangin. Okay. And another incident, yan, so very devastating. Nakikita ninyo, there is a fire within that car, wreck, total wreck. Alam mo, pinasabugan ng mortar kasi sumabog siya. Ano yung nag-explode dito? Is an oxyacetylene cylinder. Ano ba yung oxyacetylene? Ito yung ginagamit natin sa oxyacetylene welding. Ano yung oxyacetylene welding? Ito yung ginagamit niya natin sa pagre-repair natin. Aside from that shielded metal arc welding, meron pa tayong ginagamit na dihangin. Yan, oxygen and acetylene. Yan po. So pag sumabog po, abay napakalakas po niyan. Kasi with that cylinder, parang kanyon pag sumabog po yan. Plus yung pressure. Ang malakas po dyan is yung pressure niya pag pumutok. Yan, that's that explosion. So, what can we do? So, shall we save money or shall we save lives? So, take a look of our equipment, yung mga ginagamit natin. Titingnan po natin kung ito ba is in good condition, still in good condition. Kailangan ba is meron tayong laging monitoring? Of course, yan po yung sinasuggest natin palagi. Yan po yung practice natin during this ISO. That's the reason why we need to make a daily preventive maintenance on all of our equipment. Hindi natin napapansin, nagamit lang tayo ng gamit, yun pala later on, it will cause hazard. Magkakause na siya ng danger. Yung lagi mo siyang ginagamit, dahil lagi mo siyang ginagamit, kabisado mo na, but you try to inspect it also. Para walang leakage, sa gases, walang leakage. Sa kuryente, electrical cables, walang crack. That may tend to put you into electrocution. And the next, ito yung nabanggit kanina ni Sir Nap regarding sa grinder. Ano daw yung dapat nating tignan dyan? Take a look at this picture on the right side. That is the process. Is grinding, not only grinding, cutting pipe tube with the use of a grinding dish. Kung yung iba, banso, hacksaw ang ginagamit. Ito grinding dish. So, try to take a look at the quality of the product that we are buying. Maaring expired na siya. Kasi if expired na yan, the quality or the material that is being used has to become porous. O kaya, hindi lang siya nagiging porous, kundi nagiging weak yung ibang parts pa niya. So, take a look also at the brand. Kasi pag bibili ka nga ng mumurahin, siyempre, baka mapamura ka rin. Hindi naman maganda na dahil mura, ibilhin mo na agad, bumili ka pa nga ng 10. 1 beses mo lang naman palang gamitin, 1 minuto palang basag na yung dish. At maaaring ito pa yung sinasabi nga ni Sir Nap kanina, natatama dito sa ating mga noo. Ano yung tumatama sa noo mo, mabibiyak yung ulo mo, o lalabas yung mata mo, napaka-devastating naman, disastrous. So, tingnan po natin ang ating mga material na ginagamit at in the process. Now, let us take a look on how to apply hazard. This is the basic application of HIRAC. Ito yung HIRAC na sinasabi. Ano nga ba ulit yung HIRAC? Ano nga ba ulit yung HIRAC? Is hazard identification, risk assessment, and controls. So, kompleto na yan. Makikita mo na yung hazard, mariregulate mo na siya, ma-assess mo na siya, and then you have to control it. An example, base sa mga nabanggit ni Sir Nap kanina, at our first presenter, about machine safety. You may notice that within the picture, ano po yan? Mixer po yan. Concrete mixer po yan. Nakikita natin ano bang ginagawa ng concrete mixer. It mixes the cement, aggregates, etc. May tubig dyan and some chemicals that's being used in construction. Nakikita natin meron siyang doon sa bandang gitna, there is a safeguarding. Bakit meron safeguarding? Diyan meron siyang nakalagay diyan na makina. That machine, it has an engine which tends to get hot in times, and then for how many minutes, hindi din siyang uminit. And there are rotating parts. These rotating parts could tend to get you amputated pagka naidikit mo yung pakamay mo. Pwede kang hatakin yung damit mo, loose t-shirts or loose equipment na hawak mo. Pwede niyang kainin. Na pwede ka na rin umikot-ikot doon. Yan. So ano nakalagay dyan when it comes to machine safety? You have the 3 basic controls. The PPE. Gumamit ka daw ng PPE when doing the job. Yes, of course. Ano yung mga PPE na yan? When it comes to concrete mixing, there are acids within that cement. So kailangan mong mag-boots, kailangan mo rin mag-gloves. And then admin control. Use safety signages and orientation of workers. It is very good na kailangan pag meron tayo mga dangerous activities, kailangan natin maglagay ng label. Kagaya doon sa driving, di ba? Pagka nasiraan tayo ng sasakyan, sample na natin, nasiraan tayo ng sasakyan, hindi ka basta-basta natitigil lang doon sa gitna ng daan at wala kang ilalagay. Kaya meron tayo diyan, nagdadala ang bawat sasakyan, yung driver, ng early warning device. So you have to put both sides, the rear and the front side of your vehicle para makita nila that there is problem within that area, that early warning device para hindi mabangga yung gamit. Ganon din dito sa machine na ito. It should be properly labeled. And of course, yun nga, nabanggit ko na kanina, yung engineering control, meron na siyang machine guarding. Meron kasing ibang electric, mga concrete mixer na walang guarding, safeguarding. Kung makita nyo po, yung cover na yan, yung malaking container. Nandyan po sa kapaloob dyan yung makina. Okay po. And next is your electrical safety. Yan. Ano yung activity niya doon? You may notice that he is fixing that electrical outlet or the provision of additional AC outlet. Nag-aayos siya ng saksakan. Ito yung saksakan lang. Marami tayong napapansin dito sa ating mga building na saksakan na maaaring pagka nagsasaksak tayo are loose already, you have to replace it. Yes, we have to use PPE when dealing with electrical parts, yung mga exposed cables, exposed terminals. And that part has high voltage electrical safety should be considered at all times. Admin control, ano po yung dapat nating ilagay? O especially po sa mga in charge, building in charge, supervisors, please take note, nalagyan po natin to ng tinabanggit ko kanina, LOTO. Ano yung LOTO ulit? Lockout and tag out signage. Itong LOTO na ito, napaka-importante. Anong pwede natin ilagay? Lagyan natin yan ng label na it is unserviceable. Pwede natin siyang lagyan na huwag natin gagamitin para hindi tayo makuryente. Some labels are specific labels na pwede na at na-ready na yata na base natin. They already disseminated. Tama, Sir Jomar? Meron na, ano? Meron na. Standard po yon. And then engineering control. pull out that cable and use reliable voltage tester. Titingnan natin kung may live wire ba doon. Use testers. And who will do this? Of course, mga experts po. Not mga trained personnel po natin sa auxiliary services. Kaya hindi basta-basta dahil may alam ka na, igagalaw ka na. Allow it to those are authorized and those who are experts. Yan po. Next, so we have to discuss about fire safety. Sa dami naman i-set na namin na examples when it comes to fire, titingnan natin how could we control, how could we address problems on fire. So we have this fire safety. It shows here that you could notice a triangle. This is actually a geometric representation of the factors necessary to make a fire. Ano yung mga necessary na yan na sinasabi natin? Ito yung mga nakakagawa ng sunog. Pag mayroong heat, mayroong fuel, mayroong oxygen, at the middle part is the chemical reaction. Magkakaroon ng chemical reaction yan. This is a tetrahedron. Tetrahedron of fire or fire tetrahedron. Yung oxygen, heat, and fuel are frequently referred to as the fire triangle. Tanggalin mo yung isa dyan, walang sunog. Tanggalin mo yung init, walang sunog. Tanggalin mo yung fuel, ano yung fuel? Yan yung nasusunog na material. And tanggalin mo oxygen, walang sunog. So, better yet, para walang ang sunog, tanggalin mo isa, dalawa, or you have to observe na lessen yung encounter ng chemical reaction. So, yun po yun. Next, napapansin natin sa picture, yes, sa picture, there's already fire. And there's already this fire brigade team, firemen. Inspira nila ng tubig. Is that control? You think that is the control? Eto, ginagamot na nila yung sakit. Hindi po yan. Nang babanggitin po natin dito is the fire prevention and control. And what are these? Of course, number one dyan is to follow the electrical code. Electrical code of the Philippines. Meron po tayo niyan. Hindi basta-basta po ang gagawa ng electrical servicing within your household, within our building. They are registered electricians. They should be registered electrical engineers para makita po nila meron pong computation yan. This electrical code of the Philippines is to establish basic material quality and electrical works standards for the safe use of electricity for light, heat, power, communications, signaling, and other purposes. So halos lahat po nangangailangan tayo ng kuryente. Mawalan lang tayo ng kuryente, nagreklamo na tayo. Yun pala, maintenance nila. So they have to do that. And then of course, we have to observe good housekeeping and eliminate or minimize hazards. Housekeeping, dyan na po papasok yung training natin about 7S. So just the 5S, you could now control fire. Ano yung mga 5S po? Ano po, naalala pa po ba natin? Yung 5S? Yung Seiri, Seiso, Seiton, Seiketsu, and Setsuke. Ano ba? These are Japanese terms that represents the 5S. Yes po? Okay. Then we have to, in our building, we have to install sprinklers and fire alarms. Dito po ba sa building natin, meron po tayong sprinklers and fire alarms? Ano yun? Pagka mayroong sunog na yan, anong gagawin natin? Meron ba tayong pang-alarm? Na-identify na po ba sa mga buildings natin? Please take note of this. Kasi isa po ito sa mga chinecheck sa ISO. Yung provision ng fire alarm. Hindi kung mayroon ng sunog, sisigaw tayo, sunog! Wala pong ganon. Nagdadagdag lang po ng panic yon. Okay, and of course, we have to provide our buildings with adequate fire extinguisher. So, meron tayo, mga napapansin, halos lahat naman yata provided na, di ba, ng fire extinguishers. But we have to know, what is this fire extinguisher? Ano po yung fire extinguisher na yan? Baka nakikita po natin yung fire extinguisher, but di naman po natin alam gamitin. Para saan po ba yan? Mabigat na tangke yan. It is a cylinder with this fire hydrant. It has the capability to pull out fire pipigilan yung paglaki ng sunog. So paano natin ginagawa yan? Paano gamitin ng fire extinguisher? You could see dito, meron tayong abbreviation natin na PAS. Ano ba yung PAS? Pull, aim, squeeze, and sweep. Ano yung pinupull mo? You have to pull the pin. Meron po ba dyan malapit na fire extinguisher? Pwede rin yung pong tingnan. Ano po yung pin na yan? Of course, when you pull the pin, this will also break or tamper the seal. Nakatali po yan. Meron po siyang seal dyan. And then you have to pull it. And then aim. Ano yung aim? Asa mo i-aim yan? Aim low, pointing to the extinguisher's nozzle at the base of the fire. Kasi ang sunog po, wala po sa taas kasi nandun po sa source, nandun po sa baba. Maaring nandun sa source, yung sunog, pinagmulan ng sunog ay nasa baba, or kung nasaan yung source, doon mo itututok yung nozzle. Okay? At a specific distance wherein makakaabot yung hydrant. Okay? And then squeeze. Third is squeeze. Squeeze the handle to release the extinguishing agent. Kakalabitin mo na. You have to grip it. Squeeze mo siya. Lalabas na po yung agent. So, dahil cylinder type ito, pag unang kalabit mo, pwede ka sigurong magulat if you are to feel the pressure. But stay firm ang paghawak natin, and then you will now squeeze. And then fourth is that you have to sweep. A sweeping motion from side to side at the base of the fire until it appears to be out. So, ganun pong paggamit natin ng fire extinguisher. So, there are different types of fire extinguishers. So, mapapansin natin, usually, napapansin niyo may nakalabel dyan, ABC. So, that's an ABC fire extinguisher. Some types like carbon dioxide, wet chemical, water mist, foam, clean agent. Yun po, yung mga klase ng mga fire extinguisher. So, ibig sabihin, at a specific type of fire, pinanggalingan ng fire, meron ding specific na klase ng fire hydrant or yung agent, extinguishing agent. So, like yung ABC fire extinguisher na ginagamit natin, we have this monoammonium phosphate. Ito po is dry chemical that has the capability to put out fire of class A. Ito, ano po yung mga class A na yan? These are trash, these are wood, papers, yan, plastics, at mga combustible materials sa mga solids, yan. And then class B for liquids and gases. Ano yung mga class B na yan? Mga inflammable. Remember, inflammable liquid po. Ano pa mga inflammable liquid natin na na-encounter natin within our workplace? Pwede po, mga gasolina, kerosene, and even yung mga alcohol, tama. Yung mga ginagamit natin ng alcohol. Even perfume, which contains alcohol. Kasi may percentage yan ng alcohol. Pumuputok po yan. Yung mga lighters, it has butane. Kaya meron siyang propane, meron siyang butane. Ano pa? Yung mga inflammable na liquid and gases. And of course, yun nga, nabagit natin kanina, oxygen and acetylene. Yan. And the class C, type of fire extinguisher for energized electrical source. Yan. So, hindi po lahat is pwede nating gamitin sa electrical source. Kagaya ng sinasabi natin, pag nasunugan tayo, wala kang fire extinguisher, you have to use a wet blanket. When you will be using wet blanket in that electrical or energized electrical source, you will get electrocuted also. Ang hirap po nun. Baka ang mangyari, imbes na nakatulong ka, mas lumala pa dahil ikaw pang naging casualty. So let us have presence of mind in identifying or recognizing the source of that fire, especially pag electricity po. Yan po. And then next is we are to proceed with that chemical safety. When we say chemical safety, na example na rin ito kanina ni Sir Nap, dahil ulitin ko lang, allow me to exemplify, that in chemical safety, within this process, concrete mixing po. After concrete mixing, napapansin natin that ordinary water cannot just flush out this cement, yung mga didikit na doon sa mixer. So of course, it is the job of the operator to clean it. So ano yung pwedeng ma-involve doon sa process na yan? So mayroong cement doon, palilinis niya, usually sa mga magagandang kumpanya kasi, they are using a hydrochloric acid. Ano po yung hydrochloric acid? Ito po yung muriatic acid, locally known as muriatic acid. But some uses the more concentrated one, hydrochloric acid, just to flush out this sticky cement doon sa concrete mixer. So yan po. Then engineering control, you have to do some engineering controls and maglalagay ka ng label. Kaya bakit namin naisama itong example na ito, kasi mapapansin natin within the campus premises, marami tayong construction job ngayon. Maraming ginagawang building. That when you pass by a construction site, meron mga tubig dyan, then pagka nakapaapa ka lang or naka-slipper ka lang or kahit napasukan shoes mo, later on nararamdaman mo bakit it's something like nagiging harsh yung skin mo. Nagkakaroon ng skin irritation because of the concentration of those chemicals being used in flushing out the cement or the cement itself. Meron po siyang irritating substance. Okay? Then you have to use PPE. Pag ikaw nagtatrabaho, you have to use PPE. Pag ikaw ay dadaan lang, just a passerby, still you have to use PPE. So para maiwasan po natin ng mga chemical exposures po within our workplace or sa ating mga dadaanan. Okay, so that is all about how we are going to recognize hazards. Ano po yung mga hazard na yan? Chemical hazard. What else? Ano po yung mga hazard na yan? Fire hazard. We have fire safety, machine hazard. Then we have applied the basic of HIRAC, hazard identification, risk assessment, and controls. So allow me to continue to module 4. So kung meron po kayong mga katanungan, we have allotted time for the open forum later on for question and answer, or something like you have to recommend, suggest, or anything. Pag-uusapan po natin later. Yan po. In module 4, we have the application of hazard identification, risk assessment, and control. Ito na yung application natin ng HIRAC mismo. The objective of this is to let participants be able to perform risk hazard assessment, evaluation, and recommend measures of control. So you could recommend controls, maiisip nyo kasi kayo po yung nakikidil doon sa hazard. Maaaring kayo nakapansin, maaaring din kayo makakidil at kayo ang pwedeng maging potential na victim dito sa hazard na ito. Okay, let us try to look at this slide. Keys in recognizing and identifying hazards. We have abbreviated it as RACE. Yan, RACE. Recognizing hazard, assessing hazard, controlling hazards, and evaluating hazards. RACE, yes, of course. We have to remember RACE. Hindi yung tinatawag nating run for your life. Hindi po yung ganun. We have to put in our mind how to RACE. Yan, to recognize, assess, and control and evaluate hazard para maging safe po tayo. In recognizing hazard, yan, nakikita natin sa picture, meron nag-floor map doon sa area. Usually sa mall, di ba? Ang daming dumadaan na tao, kahit maraming dumadaan na tao or it could be slippery, anong ginagawa ng maintenance? Nagmamap sila. But they are putting a signage. Meron po sila dyan. Ang sabi dyan, caution, wet floor. Yeah. It means pag wet floor, it could you could get slip, pwedeng madulas, delikado ang maglakad ng mabilis o kaya hindi nagdadahan-dahan sa paggalaw within that area. But of course, in recognizing hazards, before you can address the dangers, ito yung danger pwedeng mangyari of any hazard, you have to know if there's a hazard in the first place. So alamin natin, may hazard nga ba? Baka naman minsan, yung iniisip natin na hazard, hindi naman. Or baka naman yung iniisip natin na walang hazard, meron pala. Yung akala mo meron, pero meron talaga. Ganon. Meron. Ano yan? Kala mo lang wala, pero meron. O, ganun po. So before you can address that, you have to know if there is really that hazard. Okay. There are steps to hazard identification. Paano daw natin ma-identify? Just these 3 steps to remember. You have to process undergo process identification. Step 2 is task identification. Step 3 is recognize the hazard within the task. So yan pong tatlong yan para makapag-identify tayo ng hazard. Remember po, paano? Ito po, ilagyan natin siya ng example. Yes, isa-isay natin. Isa-isay natin. Okay? Isa na lang dito. When we see 5S, maglinis. When we see process identification, isa dyan is paglilinis natin. Diba? Dati meron tayong linis walis brigade, yan, grass cutter, naglilinis. Simpleng pagwawalis, ginagawa natin sa mga ating mga workplace, sa opisina. Nagwawalis po tayo. Okay? So we have to identify the process. Anong process? Yan. And then maintenance. Sino gumagawa nito? Usually, mga auxiliary services. Yes, next is yung office work. Yes, lahat po tayo. Madalas, meron tayong mga office work. Even yung pagko-computer, maghapon. Will you see hazard sa pagko-computer maghapon? Yes, of course. And then, painting. Anong painting na tinutukoy? Yung pagpipintura. This paint are chemicals. It has side effects. Merong epekto yan. Hazard na pwedeng incur mo when you are doing the painting job. Marami dyan namamatay o kaya hinihika dahil sa fumes na nalalanghap nila due to this painting. Itong paint, yung content ng paint. And then next is yung welding. Yan. Bakit napaka maselan ng process na welding when we are identifying that welding job as a process? During welding, you're involving high current within that welding machine. Yung output current niya, it tends to go as high as 300 amperes, 250 amperes, 100 amperes. Yung 3 amperes na nga lang dito sa mga household service line natin, sa mga saksakan natin. Nanginginig na tayo hanggang tuhod. Tama po? Sino po pong nasubukang makuryente? Yan. Yung welding, ano pang dulot ng welding is that meron po siyang welding fumes. Yung fumes, mga hydrocarbon, mga carbon monoxide because of this welding. Yan. And too much radiation. Next is that we have lift truck operation. Yan, pagka nagbubuhat tayo, meron tayong mga truck. Dito sa atin, meron tayong dump truck na gamit natin pagtapon ng basura. And then what else? Production facilities. Yan, production facilities. Ano naman ginagamit ng production facilities within our workplace? Printer. What else? Xerox machine. Binding machine. Yan, dahil ISO, dahil accreditation, madalas tayong gumamit ng mga ganyan. These are production facilities. These are equipment. Production facilities, kapag walang kuryente, gagamit kang generator. What else? We have also packaging. Yan. Packaging, it also applies. Gumagawa tayo ng packaging. Papak na natin yung nagawa natin na, ano yun, tawag natin dyan? Portfolio. Yan. Gumawa ka ng portfolio sa kamadali mo to meet the deadline. There is a process. Yan. Yeah. Paki-off po yung mic ninyo. And then next is yung security. When we are dealing with the conduct of security, monitoring, yung mga ginagawa ng mga ating mga kasama ng security, and even us, we have to our post, we guard our workplace. We have to assure safety at all times and security. And the next is your shipping and receiving. See, imagine there's also a Shopee at Lazada. Pagka meron kang nare-receive at meron ka rin siniship. Yan po. So you have to identify the process within your area sa workplace po natin. Meron na po tayong, we are already aspiring for the ISO certification. We have already identified SOPs, Standard Operating Procedures, which means these are the processes that you are doing within your work area, workplace. So you have to identify all of those. A single process has another sub-processes and another process. So madami pong trabaho. Clearly, we have to identify them. And then next to identify the hazard is that task identification. So ito po makikita po natin yung flow, mula doon sa pag-identify natin is the process, and then we have to go to the task. Ano yung specific task within that process? Halimbawa, is a work in your work area, let's say, anong specific na office tayo? Saan? Sa ano na lang? Sa enrollment. Yan, enrollment na lang. Ang process is enrollment. You have already identified standard operating procedure in enrollment. So we have also identified what are those things that these process owners, we have these process owners, ito yung gagawa doon sa trabaho. So there are specific tasks within that process. What are these tasks? Sa enrollment, ano yung kailangan mong gawin sa process ng enrollment? So we have to put everything on that specific process, yung mga tasks na yan. Example na lang natin is yung auxiliary services. Yes, can you flash it, sir? So auxiliary services like electrical installations and repair, mechanical repairs and preventive maintenance, earth moving. Ano earth moving na ito? Gagalaw ang mundo. Oo. Yes. Kidding aside, ito po yung pag-move mo ng mga gamit and din yung lupa at saka marami pang iba. Then building maintenance. We have services offered in the auxiliary unit as building maintenance. Kami po sa auxiliary ang gumagawa ng mga kailangan sa inyong mga buildings. Kung kakayanin ng aming mga power HVAC upkeep sa proper ventilation, silinis mo ay hindi ka careful, kaya kailangan nating identify yung task, especially when you're cleaning, you are scrubbing, you are scratching, and you are cutting some parts of that ventilation system. Okay? So na-identify mo na yung mga tasks doon. You have already recognized it, and you have already identified the task. And what is the next process again? It is the recognizing the hazard within the task. So parang deductive tayo. Deductive na pagka natapos, dandun na sa task na yon, you will now recognize the hazard within that specific task. And what are these things or ito yung mga nai-involve sa pag-record sa hazard na yan, sa task na yan. When we say people recognizing hazard in the task, ito yung mga na-involve doon sa trabaho. Na-involve sa trabaho, we have another abbreviation para madali nating tandaan. PEMEP. Yan. PEMEP stands for People, Equipment, Materials, Environment, and the Process. So PEMEP, hindi natin makakalimutan. Ano nga ba si PEMEP? People, Equipment, Materials, Environment, and Process. So you may notice, in recognizing this hazard, people, anong ang naidudulot ng tao? Anong naidudulot ng hazard ng mga tao? Number one, isa dyan, ang horse playing. Oh, nakakahiya. Nakandyan po yung horse playing. Ano tong horse playing na ito? Dahil tagsisinutil na gumagawa tayong trabaho. Agsisinutil, gumagawa ng kabalbalan sa trabaho. Then later on, it will cause hazard. Next, untrained employees. Yan po. Meron po tayong mga klase ng trabaho na kailangan mong gawin, hindi ka naman trained. Minsan, nakukos yun ng problema, hazard. Kasi hindi ka naman talaga marunong. Nagmarunong ka, kaya mahirap pong magmarunong. Kailangan po, you have to be equipped with the skills, the knowledge, or we call the competency. Yan po. And next is yung lack of attention. Lack of attention, yung wala ka sa focus. Ano yung ibig sabihin nun? Meron kang ginagawa, hindi ka nag-focus. Ito, set na lang natin ito sa driving. Sa driving, sa isang trabaho ng driver, while you are driving on the street, you have to focus yourself, your eyes, and your mindset sa pagdadrive mo. Pagka wala kang attention sa daan, wala kang attention sa pagdadrive, it may tend to cause vehicular accident. Kung hindi ikaw lang ang nagsarili madisgrasya, pwede ka pang makadisgrasya. Hindi ka na nag-focus, nandamay ka pa. So let us try to check on this one. especially sa mga kasamahan kong drivers dyan, hindi naman tayo, alam naman natin na safe drivers tayo, we are defensive drivers, so we still have to focus on our job driving. Next is that we are making poor decisions. Yan. Ano tong mga to? Poor decisions. Ang tagal mo mag-decide. O nag-decide ka, mali naman. Anong ibig sabihin yan? Sample natin. Merong trabaho. Ano yan? Electrical job yan. Sige, gawin mo na. Eh, nakialam ka, ikaw ang nagbigay ng desisyon na gawin mo na. Hindi naman siya trend. Ay, iwasan po natin yun kasi pwede nating ipinapahamak ang isang tao, kasama natin, or meron tayong bagay na ipinapagawa sa kasamahan natin na hindi safe, wag na po natin pong ituloy yan. Kasi it will tend to make to resort to a poor decision that will cause hazard and later on a devastating accident. And then next is that you to use about this one, using improper technique. Yan. May mga technique po bawat gawain natin. Kahit na lang natin sa isang sa workplace natin, yung office work, encoding. Simpleng encoding lang. Ginagawa mong mag-encode ka. Bakit kailangan pa bang may technique dyan? Yes, the proper posture. Paano ang tamang pag-upo? Tamang tilting ng ating mga LCD, yung monitor natin. Tamang paghawak ng mga bagay-bagay dyan. Yung pag-upo mo, yung balance mo doon sa upuan mo, how you place something on your table, and how you work on that encoding. So you have to be cautious in your techniques. And then, using inappropriate equipment. Ang tao minsan ginagawa itong bagay na ito dahil sa kakamadali o kaya ignorante sa klase ng trabaho o kaya sa gamit. Yan. Using inappropriate equipment. Okay, simpleng pagpukpok lang ng lansa, pagpukpok ng pako. Simply how to drive these nails, you should be using a hammer. A specific hammer, you could use a ball hammer, ball pin hammer or a claw hammer ang ginagamit natin. You could not use other type of hammer like a simple mallet, a wooden mallet, or a chipping hammer ginagamit sa welding. Magkakaiba po yan. So kailangan natin the appropriate equipment to be used in that specific job. Ganun po yan. And yes, rushing to get the job done. Kakamadali. Yan. Sa sobrang pagmamadali natin, anong nangyayari? Dahil sa atin, sa kakamadali natin, nagkakandalik-tseletse, nagkakaproblema tayo sa paggawa ng bagay-bagay. It's not only the job that suffers, people suffers around you, or the quality of the job that you're doing suffers. So, iwasan po natin yung magmadali. Take a good time, appropriate timing sa lahat ng bagay. So yun po, yung i-contribute natin, tayo mga tao sa hazard na yan, pag-create ng hazard. Then next, sa PMEP na yan is your equipment hazards. These equipment hazards, you could include the following. Using improper equipment job, yes, nabanggit na natin kanina, pag maling equipment ang ginamit mo, nakakadisgrasya. Using an improper technique, pag maling technique na ginamit mo sa paggamit sa equipment na yan, nagkakaroon din ng problema. Next is your points of operation causing nips, cuts, and amputation. Ito na. Sa equipment, meron tayong mga equipment kasi na nagkakos talaga ng disgrasya pagka hindi tayo maingat na gumamit. Simpleng sa pagluluto na lang po. Yan. In that cooking process, you are to use cutting tools like your knife, a very sharp knife. Pag gumamit ka ng blunt knife, you tend to exert more effort. Pag gumamit ka naman ng very sharp knife, small effort lang, nakakakat ka na. But if improper yung point of operation mo, you may get cut by this knife. Nasusugat po tayo. So these are the things that kailangan natin consider when using our equipment. Paano mag-ingat gumamit ng equipment? Next, that we have this sabi doon, exposure to moving parts. Yan. What are these moving parts? Some things like some parts of a machine or part of your workplace that are moving. Rotating, yan. Sliding, ano yung mga nag-slide niyan? Even that sliding window, nakakasira yan, nakaka-damage yan. Yung rotating, ano yung mga umiikot yan? Rotating spindle. Ayan po, electric fan, na ventilation system. Yung electric fan po natin na umiikot, gumagalaw yan, maaaring pagka may matouch na part or pwedeng mag-touch doon sa blade niya, it could tend to slicing or cutting. Ganun po yun. So, we let us not expose ourselves to moving parts. Kailangan natin mag-ingat sa moving parts. Poor maintenance leading to equipment failure. Yan. Kaya sa amin po sa auxiliary, especially sa mga vehicle, as the head of the motor pool ng NLOC, we have to upkeep our vehicle. We have to see to it that our vehicles are in pristine condition. When I say pristine condition, ang taas ng quality pa rin. Yung efficiency ng vehicle is nandun. Iwasan po natin na magkaroon ng problema para prior to the travel, roadworthy po siya. So, poor maintenance leading to equipment failure. Pagka purang maintenance mo, paggamit mo ng sasakyan mo, sira na pala yung sasakyan mo, ginamit mo pa, nagkakaroon ngayon, nagkukusya ng hazard. You may tend to get vehicular accident or pwedeng ikaw ay makadisgrasya. Next is failure of hand tools. Yun, kagaya din, related to sa nauna, failure to use of that improper use of equipment for the job, failure of hand tools. Mismong yung hand tools ang nag-fail. Kagaya yan, nabili natin na masabi kanina sa material, yung binili mo na grinding dish is mura. nung ginamit mo, nabasag, tumalsik sa iyong mulagat, sa inyong mata, ayun, mayroon ng failure doon sa hand tools na ginamit natin. Sa ginamit mo. Ganyan. So, you have to use a good hand tool. And then, next is inappropriate personal protective equipment for the job. Ayan. Dito, during this time of pandemic, napapansin natin, meron talhalhal tayo, we are prescribed to use a mask. Yan, gumamit tayo ng mask as our PPE to avoid or prevent, especially when we are exposed into a very congested area na mga pinupuntahan natin. Paano gamitin yung diba? Gamitin yung mask is minsan already a debate. Yung blue ba ang nakalabas o yung white ang nakalabas? Meron ng disagreement minsan sa ganun. Parehas lang yan. If you are not using it properly, bakit natin protective equipment, yung PPE natin? Gumamit ka nga ng kagang isang proseso, halimbawa, sa welding, gumamit ka nga ng face mask. Ang ginamit mong face mask is clear. Nang kailangan mong gamitin is just tinted with a grade of 100 pataas na tint, light lang ang ginamit mong equipment, PPE, nasisilaw ka pa rin. So, nadadamage pa rin yung ating mga mata, especially our red. So, nagkakaroon ng problema. So, yan po sa mga equipment. So, meron pa kayong mga na-observe, makaragdagan dahil sa mga equipment. Pwede ninyo pong banggitin sa mga kasama natin, ma-orient tayo lahat. Kailangan natin. So, we will move on to the another factor is the material hazards could include the following. Material, sharp or heavy, or object. Ano dalas na matalim? Kutsilyo. Ano pa? Heavy. Ano yung mga mabibigat na equipment natin? Especially dito sa mga workplace natin. Dala naman marami kasama doon, babae. And syempre, if they have to carry or lift heavy materials, they have to call somebody who would carry this heavy material. So, ganun po. Pag heavy ganyang buhate, huwag kang magpumilit. Try to make it lighter or pagka hindi mo nga kaya, pagawa mo sa iba. Yun po yun. Pag hot object, sino pong may gusto yung humahawak ng hot dito? Ako naman, gustong-gusto ko yung hot minsan eh. Di ba, Sir Jomar? Hot coffee, yan. Pero pagka sobrang init, yung sobra, masakit. Mga nakaka-relate po dyan. Mga hot object daw. Okay. What else, Sir Jomar? Let's proceed. Ano pa? Yung hazardous materials. Yan, hazardous materials. During our meeting, it's an administrative meeting, nabanggit natin sa mga comment ng accreditors, wala daw MSDS. Ano yung MSDS? Material Safety Data Sheet. Or the new term is the safety data sheet because hindi lang naman lahat is material lang yung merong kailangan ng ganun. So there are other things na kailangan bigyan ng pansin. What are these hazardous materials? Doon sa SDS na yan, SDS, when we are purchasing something like chemicals like caustic soda, even gasoline, even this special oil, even chemicals na nakalagay doon sa MSDS niya ang mga safety precautions. Nandyan yung specification niya that this chemical could be inflammable. Remember, if this is inflammable, pwede siyang masunog at tendency niya, mataas ang tendency niya na masunog. Yan. So, kailangan natin ng MSDS. Doon natin sa MSDS makikita lahat ng safety precautions. And, ano pa, there are times that there is this chemical ingestion. Ano yun? Naiinom niya. Naiinom or naitatalsik sa ating mga mata. Nakalagay sa MSDS na yan, sa safety data sheet na yan, ang mga kailangan mong first aid. Yan. Katulad ng pag nakainom ka halimbawa ng asido, anong first aid na dyan? Nakalagay dyan, kailangan mo daw pasukahin, kailangan mo painumin ng egg white para maisuka niya. Ano ba? Oo nga naman, kung inom ka nga naman ng egg white, di pa nakakasuka yun. Yan. Ano pa? Ang mga kailangan nating tandaan when it comes to material. Improper stocking or storage material. Yan po. Sobrang pag-i-stock ng mga bagay-bagay, masyadong mataas ng level, di ba kahit yung mga organizers na nabibili natin, kahit yung mga boxes na yan, they are labeled kung paano mo siya i-stock. 5-layer stacking capacity, nakalagay dyan. Eh, ginawa mong 6. Otherwise, dinoble mo pa 10 kasi ito is to minimize this space na kailangang ino-occupy. It will tend to bend, tend to get disrupted, madali siyang mag-slip dahil mahina yan, yung foundation pinagpatungan niya. And other storage materials, like mga cabinet natin, overcapacity ang nilalagay natin, overloaded. Kahit nga motorsiklo, di ba? Pagka-overloaded ang motor, nawawala yung balance. So, sa material naman, pagka sobrang pag-stack mo ng mga bagay na yan, nagkakaroon ng problema later on. And the next is that we have unsecured loads. Yun, nabanggit ko na. Unsecured loads. Sample natin, gumamit ka ng karton. Sa karton na yon, nilagyan mo ng paso. Doon sa paso na yon, nilagyan mo ng bato, buhangin, lupa, fertilizer, at meron palang kasamang napakalaking plant. Yan. Sa mga plantito at plantita po dyan, wag po sa karton ilalagay kasi baka mabasa yung karton. Habang hawak-hawak mo yung mabigat na papaso, pwedeng bumagsak sa inyong mga paa. Ayun, disgrasya. So sa mga material na ginagamit natin, tignan po natin maigi kung anong dapat na load weight lang, load weight capacity. Lifted high into the air. Ano itong mga bagay na ito? Kailangang nakaangat at na-expose sa hangin. Maraming bagay po na ganyan na dapat is hindi dapat sa mga exposed na area or some things like dapat in-expose mo lang siya sa area, a ventilated area. Kagaya ng mga combustible materials. Difficult to handle manually. So this is the reason why na kailangan natin minsan mag-automate. Kailangan natin ng automation doon sa process na yan. Kagaya ng isang site na natin sa example. When it comes to personal attendance, ano nang ginagamit natin? O di ba? Meron na tayong biometrics. Yung biometrics na yan, ipakita mo lang yung mukha mo, nababasa na niya, na-identify ka na, you have already signed in. You have already your attendance. Hindi kagaya ng dati, you have to use this, you have to write too much, you have to You have to use bandiklak. Ano ba yan? Very, parang matagal. Maraming ginagawa. When you are automating, edi mas maganda ang buhay. Yun po. Next is environment. Yan. So, hindi sa lahat ng bagay isisisi mo sa tao, sa material, doon din sa environment. Nandyan po yung mga bagay-bagay na katulad nito. This includes walking surfaces. Yan. Yung mga dinadaanan natin. Concrete pavement yan. Yes, concrete pavement nga yan. Magandang maglakad. Meron dahil maulan ngayon, meron naman palang lumot. Yung, ano na yung lumot? Moss, yan. Yung lumot na yan, they could, sometimes naging hazardous siya pag pwede kang ma-sleep agad-agad. Airborne contaminants. Ano yung airborne contaminants na yan? Especially ngayon, COVID. Diba? There are more airborne contaminants, yung mga virus na yan. Ano pa yung airborne contaminants na yan? Some particulates, some smoke, yung smoke, fumes coming from other processes. These are contaminants sa air. We have also the Clean Air Act. So, kaya nang sinabi nabanggit ni Sir Nap kanina, we have to measure the quality of the air. Yan. If you are to measure the hotness and the coldness of the air also, you have to use a psychrometer. Para masyado na palang mainit dito sa lugar natin, kailangan natin mag-install ng aircon. Excessive heat doon sa workplace mo, sometimes you could easily get exhausted. Diba? So, heat stress, pag masyado namang malamig, yun nga, kagaya sa mga ibang lugar, gaya sa pinanggalingan kong lugar sa Saudi Arabia, so pag sobrang lamig naman, kailangan namin ng heater. Pag sobrang init naman, kailangan namin ng aircon. Okay? And noise, ano ba yun? Congestion of clutters. Congestion. When you say congestion, kaya ito po, during this time of pandemic, ni-release po ng IETF, this big recommendation that we have to adhere to the policy of social distancing. Yan. Kaya kailangan po natin ng social distancing. Even sa use of our government vehicles or even public vehicles, kailangan mag-social distancing doon. Bakit po? Kailangan dapat nating iwasan yung magkaroon tayo ng closer contact to these potential people that could cause us or could transmit the disease, yung COVID nga. Hindi lang naman COVID ang iniiwasan, halos lahat naman ng sakit which are contagious, are airborne na diseases, kailangan nating iwasan. Which is, we have to adhere with this social distancing. Yan, para iwasan din natin ang congestion. Iwasan natin po ang kumpulan. Yan po. And then, another is noise. Yan. Hindi po maganda, gaya nga ng sinabi ni Sir Nap kanina, nabanggit kanina, about that 80 decibels. Too much exposures to very high frequency, sound frequency, will now give us irritation sa ating mga pandinig. If too much exposure on that, hindi mo napapansin na ibibingi ka na. Di ba nga? Way back 90s yata, nauso yung mga Walkman na yan. Walkman, then you have to use an earpiece, like kagaya ng suot ko ngayon, headphone. Pagka lagi ka na ganito, then later on, nararamdaman mo, parang nabibingi ka. Kasi the exposure of this high frequency direct to your ear could damage part of the system of your ear. Yan. Next is your heat, stress, or cold. Nabanggit ko na kanina. Vibration or radiation. Bakit nakakasakit ba itong vibration? Yes, of course po. Too much vibration will tend to cause hazard. Minsan yung sobrang exposure mo, like yung sa mga demolition job, use of machines, sa pagdadrive nga lang po, di ba? Kung sumakay ka sa isang karag-karag na sasakyan, then later on, ano nararamdaman mo? Nahihilo ka, naduduwal dahil too much vibration ang naramdaman na ng katawan mo. Kaya hindi naman maganda yung madalas pong nahuyugyog. Yung mga madalas nagpapayugyog dyan, nayuyugyog dyan, minsan dapat nating iwasan. Ganun po yung too much radiation. Of course, lahat ng too much hindi maganda. Radiation, too much exposure to the sun, lalo na yung UV light. Radiation po yan. And there is now this new technology, dahil po sa in-introduce na mga technology, how to prevent COVID, pampatay ng virus, they have this UV light. na ginagamit, ay wag po tayong basta-basta mag-patronize ng ganon if we do not know the technology behind that. Because we have different types of UV na dapat nakakapatay ng virus. Yung class A, class B, and class C. Ay yung class A is yung nakakapatay lang ng mga ordinary organism. Yung class B nakakapatay ng mga most bacteria and viruses or some organism. Pagka yung class C ginamit mo, madalas yan, nangyayari yan, di ba? Nasusunog ka na. Nasusunog ka na. This happens, I think, sa SM Baguio. They introduced this machine na meron na siyang ultraviolet, nag-i-emit na siya ng ultraviolet to kill the virus within that area. Nagsusurround yung machine na yun. Anong nangyari doon sa mga nag-video, yung mga na-expose doon, naramdaman nila sumakit ang mata, namulang mga mata. Imagine, ultraviolet rays direct to your eyes with that close contact. Hindi magandang pakiramdam noon. Nasusunog ang inyong skin. Ganun din po pagka nagbabad po kayo sa araw. And then this lighting, poor lighting sa ating mga workplace, nakakasira ng mata. Poor lighting sa ating mga offices, hindi nagiging magandang ating mga paningin. Or too much lighting naman, nakakasilaw sa ating mga mata. So ayun po. Let us proceed to the next one. Is the process. Hazards could include within the process in your workplace design. Paano ginawa yung trabaho mo? Paano dinesign yung trabaho mo? Job design. Some blind corners, hindi ka nakikita doon sa trabaho mo and still you have to do it. Napakahirap po noon kasi maaring hindi ka nakikita that later on, babalik sa'yo, nakakasira ka na pala or nasisira na pala yung proseso. Schedules of production, yan. Madalas tayo, di ba, yung mga cramming natin because of too much schedule, too much load, too much production, too much work to do. Within that process, nagkakaroon tayo ng problema. Ergonomic condition, ano yung ergonomic condition na ito? These are ergonomic hazard na ito. Kagaya ng paggamit mo ng hindi naman kagandahan na upuan, matigas yung upuan. Minsan namamanhid ng ating mga puwet, nating mga likod dahil masyadong matigas. So we have to use more ergonomic, stylish, aesthetic upuan para hindi tayo makaramdam ng ganon. And inadequate spill response measures. So kulang tayo ng mga countermeasures, kulang tayo ng magandang proseso, baka naman yun ang nakagiging dahilan. Okay, we have already done with some of the processes, and let us proceed to assessing the hazards. When we are assessing hazards, there are different types or classifications of hazard. Yan yung class A, class B, or class C. These are just this matrix. This will explain to us kung ano na yung level ng ina-assess natin na hazard. Like your class A hazard. When we say class A hazard, a major condition or practice that is likely to cause serious permanent disability, loss of body part, lalo na yung death, extensive loss of building assets, equipment, or materials. So dahil sa hazard na yan, pag nangyari nga nagkaroon ng incident, because of that hazard, this could cause major destruction. Class A hazard po yun. Yung sinasabi natin na catastrophic. Yan. And then class B hazard, serious, lighter than that major damage. We have serious condition of practice that is likely to cause a serious injury, resulting in temporary disability. Kahit naman temporary, masakit pa rin yan. Okay? Disability. Or major damage to the building. O nasunugan kami, di ba? Tadila ang library na sunog. Hindi naman po maganda yung ganun. Di ba? Hindi na serious na po yun. Okay? Major damage pa rin siya. Okay? Next classification ng hazard and how we going to assess is your class C hazard. Minor na lang siya. Minor man siya, there's still this damage caused non-disruptive or non-disabling or non-injury siya. Pero still, it causes this very light damages. So, ato yung mga minor lang na hazard. Now, we have already identified how to assess, you have already recognized, and we have now to control the hazards. You may notice that we have this graphical representation, the hierarchy of controls. Na-present na nito kanina ni Sir Nap. We have elimination, substitution, engineering control, administrative control, and PPE. And on the middle part, itong line po na ito, nakikita ninyo, which is most effective and which is least effective. Paano nangyari na itong PPE ang less effective and yung elimination ay most effective? O, di po ba? Later on sa next discussions ko, ma-exemplify po natin ito, ma-explain natin. But especially, we have pointed out that these three basic classification of controls are more applicable dito sa ating workplace, especially sa academe. Engineering controls, administrative controls, personal protective equipment, which it tends to be at lesser cost. Mas mura po siya na ginagawa. Mapiprevent natin ang hazard. Next. Yan. Kagaya ng sample natin dito. We have here, yan, nakita ninyo. Ano po napansin natin sa picture? Ito po ay isang lifter. Lifter po yan. Sa automotive shop, meron po tayong poste na later on, inaangat niya yung ating sasakyan. So, ang nangyari, there is the poor foundation on that other post. Bumagsak yung sasakyan. So, what is the engineering control? You have to eliminate. Napansin natin, meron na dito elimination and substitution. Isolation, automation, machine guarding, or redesigning the process, or redesigning mismo yung equipment. Yan. Next, sir. Next is the administrative controls, which includes the following. Yan. As administrative control, we have the standard operating procedure. So this standard operating procedure, sa mga gumawa po ng proseso, you have to study it carefully. Titingnan natin yung proseso, kailangan na makaiwas na tayo sa hazard within the process. Kasi once this standard operating procedure is being implemented, wala nang hazard. We have to already eliminate the hazard. So nandun po nakafocus yung pag-eliminate sa hazard doon sa standard operating procedure. Training and education is an administrative control, kaya na ginagawa natin ngayon. You have to get aware, to be oriented. We have to be educated on safety para safe po tayo sa ating workplace. Inspection and investigation, we have to investigate what happened, anong mangyayari. We have to inspect our materials, mga gamit natin. And work practices. Yan. Iwasan po natin ng horseplaying. Job rotation. Ano tong job rotation na ito? When we say job rotation, it deals with your routine. Ito po yung routine na ginagawa mo sa trabaho mo. Kailangan bang pagka nag-grass cutter ka, diretso kang 5 hours ka mag-grass cutter, eh di nagbabibrate yung makina na yun, eh mararamdaman mo ngayon yung too much excessive vibration ng iyong katawan. Or somewhat like yung encoding. Kailangan ba mag-encode ka the whole day? Baka naman hindi. Mag-encode ka, mag-print ka, then later mag-bind ka, ikutin mo lang po yung iyong trabaho. There is now this job rotation na iwasan mo ngayon yung ergonomic and physical hazard within that task na ginagawa mo. Progressive discipline. Yan. Habang may ginagawa po tayo, let us take into our mind, sa mindset natin, meron po tayo laging disiplina. Kaya nga doon sa 5S, doon sa panglimang S is discipline. Yung Setsuke. Yung sinatawag natin. Progressive discipline. Ang mindset natin lagi, safety. Kaya nga sa industrial safety policy, madalas sinasabi na, safety first. Yan po. Ganon din po dapat dito sa atin sa academe. And next is yung competent supervision. Napakahalaga ng role ng ating mga supervisors to monitor the proper implementation of every process, standard operating procedure, and safety. So, napakahalaga po na let us remind our subordinates, let us remind our members na maggawin o sundin lagi yung ating mga safety procedures. Kasi once na neglect natin yan, it will tend to cause damage within our area or illnesses, injury, kaya meron na mga incident na tinatawag. And then, next, yung sinasabi natin, although this is the least effective daw, personal protective equipment, it is the least actually. The least. Kasi the use of hard hat, work boots, kasi kaya ka na gumagamit ng PPE dahil nandun na mismo yung hazard. You will now be exposing yourself to a hazard, pero what would isolate you from that hazard is just the PPE. See? Kaya least effective lang siya. So these are the personal protective equipment na gagamitin natin, na iwasan natin ng mga hazard na yan, like your hard hat, gloves, respirators, ay yung surgical mask natin. Dahil sa COVID na ito, we are recommended to use a surgical mask actually, not ordinary mask lang. Okay? And respirators. Hearing protection, kailangan mo ng pagka masyadong noisy yung paligid, you have to be recommended to use an ear muff. Ear muff, yung kagaya ng headset na tatakpan yung iyong tenga. Or kaya earplug, mga tinatawag nating earplug, para hindi mo masyadong marinig yung concentrated or very high frequency. Use of safety glasses, especially meron tayong mga different klase ng mga safety glasses, especially sa welding, kailangan mo ng welding glass, sa chemical goggles, to avoid splash of chemicals into your face or into your eyes. And of course, insulated or breathable working clothes. Kung gagawa ka ng isang bagay, nakasuot ka ng hindi ka komporme, hindi ka relax, it would affect the performance of your job, and then it could cause hazard later on. Kagaya ng example kanina ni Sir Nap, if you are losing, if you have an moving part, then meron kang loose shirt, then sumabit yung loose shirt mo, masyadong maluwag, you could tend to get swallowed by the machine, or pwede kang idamay doon sa problema na yan. And then, of course, lastly, we have to evaluate the effectiveness of control. So, nag-apply ka na ngayon ng control measure, gumawa ka na ng control measure, titingnan ngayon natin kung effective ba yung in-apply natin na control. You have to evaluate it. The effectiveness of controls that have been implemented to address the particular hazards must be evaluated. Why? This is to ensure that the objectives and targets are met within the designed time frame. Yan. Nami-meet ba natin? Tama yung hazard na yan. And then, the evaluation will also provide the opportunity to improve in effective, corrective, and preventive action. Meron kang in-apply na action, hindi na pala effective. So, palitan mo. You have to amend. Masyadong hazardous pala yung proseso, palitan mo yung proseso. Hazardous pala yung material na ginagamit, palitan mo yung material. So we have more option along the way na paggawa natin ng proseso just to evaluate it. And of course, I want to show you an example of how to evaluate. This is a form. Marami siguro sa atin ang familiar dito sa hierarchy form na ito. Itong hierarchy form na ito, actually ito present ito sa ISO as a risk assessment form. Pero that has been derived from the form of hierarchy. So ito yung hierarchy natin. Hazard identification, risk assessment, and control. Itong form na ito, nakikita mo na dyan yung hazard identification. You have to identify the work activity, the hazard, na-identify natin yung hazard. What are the possible effect? The impact or the impact or the possible effect. Yung probability, these are the level of how frequent or the tendency ng pangyayari. Severity, yung level ng danger na mangyayari. And then the risk, what will happen? Ano ang mangyayari? And then next slide, ito naman yung matrix, yung saan pwedeng gamitin. Actually, this is intended for the RRM. Itong matrix na ito. But when we come to use it in risk assessment, kagaya ng sa pagginawa natin SWOT analysis and risk assessment, nakakalagay dyan is catastrophic, major, minor, etc. Pwede po nating i-adapt ito or pwedeng i-design ng institution kung paano siya maglalagay ngayon dyan ng description in every level ng impact, every level ng probability, every level ng risk. And then even you could change the value, the number dito, and the color of this one. So basically, the color that has been introduced here are the colors that usually or generally used in the practice of ISO. So another example of hierarch is that ito, mas basic nga lang siya. And then yung task is printing office document. And then yung hazard, ano daw? Meron daw shredder machine doon. Hazard daw yung shredder machine, which could cause cuts caught in between, yung mga pwede kang masugat. And then ergonomic hazard, electrical hazard. And lastly, merong pang another example of hierarch, mas simple. Pwede natin pong i-adapt itong mga ito. I'm actually at the end of my topic, pero I am suggesting na ito sana itong maging output ng mga attendees, kasi for them to know the hazard within their area, to identify the area. But I will later on, we will talk with my companion, with our colleagues. And then lastly, for your best protection, yes, for your best protection, allow me to leave you something in your mind. Ephesians 6:11. Put on the full armor of God so that you can take your stand against the devil's scheme. Ano meron dito? So our battle is not against flesh and blood, but against spiritual powers, principalities. Our weapon are not physical weapons, and our armor is not physical armor. The belt of truth, the breastplate of righteousness, the helmet of salvation, the shield of faith, and the sword of truth are all component pieces of the full armor. When the full outfit is in place, there are no vulnerabilities. So let us be reminded that our full armor, magliligtas sa atin, who will protect us is our God Almighty. To God be the glory. God bless everyone. Thank you for listening and imparting your time to have this training in safety. Safety, everyone.
Palakpakan naman natin si Sir Randy Navasca of the North La Union Campus. Thank you, sir, for that very wonderful presentation. So it's 11:54 in my clock. I'll just give a brief idea again on the number of participants that have signified in the Google form. We have 380 responses. So kahapon, marami-rami rin ito. Kahapon, ang NLOC, CA, NARTD, NSRD ay nakagather ng 530 something na attendees. So, hinihikayat natin yung mga iba na hindi naka-attendance. Pwede pa po kayong mag-attendance. So, kanina hindi makapasok yung mga non-DIMSU email. So, inedit natin yung form na pwedeng makapasok yung iba na email. So you can still open the form and fill up the attendance form. So before we take our lunch, magla-lunch break po muna tayo ng 1 hour. Let us give recognition also to our counterpart at the Mid-La Union Campus, the RRM, si Sir George Fontanilla. Yan. So without him, hindi po ma-organize or hindi po maaayos itong webinar natin dyan sa Midlook. And also from the OUS, from the Open University System, si Sir Dewey Donato. Yan. Thank you for helping with us, for facilitating this activity in your campus. We will be having a 1 hour lunch break. You can set your screens on, or you can leave at the meeting and then be back later on 1 p.m. Exactly 1 p.m. we will be resuming our webinar. So palakpakan natin ang ating mga sarili. Let's stop ourselves for a job well done. We will be back at exactly 1 o'clock p.m. So, sino yung mga natira sa ating Google Meeting? Let me acknowledge those who are still present. From the College of Education, andyan pa rin po sila. From the College of Information Technology. From the Open University System, andyan po, nandyan sila grupo. Andyan po sa AVR, sina Ma'am at Sir sa Finance Services. From the HR Office. Also from the Quality Assurance, from the Registrar, and from the Supply Office, and a lot more na naka-individual individual attendance po dito sa ating meeting. So it's 11:57. Magdi-distribute ata ng virtual lunch si Sir Randy. So hintayin natin yung email natin, baka andyan na yung free virtual lunch. So thank you very much. We will be back at 1 o'clock p.m. Good day and have a nice lunch break.